Chapter 1560. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked. Up till this point of the battle, Shura was the only one who had the strength to kill the golden crows, and only Shura dared to do so. To think that another three-legged golden crow would die on the battlefield. Countless gazes turned over. 5 figures descended from the skies and barged into the battlefield, fighting against the many three-legged golden crows. The most eye-catching one was a long-armed ape monkey that was dozens of feet tall. It was covered in long fur, and its eyes were bloodshot. Thumping its chest and stomping its feet, it roared into the skies and waved its shimmering golden rod with torrential demonic chi. The gigantic ape was extremely ferocious and violent. Even against the encirclement of 10 three-legged golden crows, it was still able to retaliate with ease. In terms of strength, the three-legged golden crows were no match for the gigantic ape. Beside the gigantic ape, there was a tiger that shone with lightning arcs. It had sharp claws and fangs, and was fighting a three-legged golden crow that was flying in midair. An immortal crane circled in midair with flames burning on its body as well. Its bloodline was filled with the aura of the Baifeng firebird. A golden lion roared in a dignified manner. In the middle of the 4 demons, there was a seemingly frail and small fox with fiery red fur that shone with a crystalline luster. The little fox gripped a pitch-black cover tightly with both hands and attacked at the right time. Just now, the three-legged golden crow was burned to death by the black cover. Monkey Ling Hu Qing Qing. The golden lion and little fox stood out and joined the chaotic battle. It's them. When the sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect saw Monkey and the others, he suddenly stood up and declared, "Fellow Taoists of the primordial races, are these 5 beasts Araki Takashi and the taboo god? Mulanji is worth it. What are you doing?" The palace master of Enigma Palace was enraged and questioned loudly. Ji Qingtian could not help but say as well, "Your Heavenly Dipper sect watched helplessly as the human race was bullied. Now that our demon brothers are helping, you're repaying kindness with ingratitude?" "Fufu," Heavenly Dipper sect's sect master sneered and said, "Just a few beasts. This matter was caused by Shura's recklessness in killing the 8th Golden Crow Crown Prince. It's only right for him to pay with his life." "Not bad." The malevolent Earth sect master nodded as well. If not for the Shura, the convention of the myriad races would have been held successfully a long time ago. How would things have come to this? Upon hearing that, Ji Qingtian was not the only one. Even the patriarch abbots of Snowdrift Valley, Purple Firmament Sect, Dipankara Monastery and Diamond Monastery glared angrily. While the super sects were arguing, the primordial 5 races were extremely calm. Initially, the primordial 5 races were merely watching the show and waiting for the situation to develop. However, the primordial 5 races were interested when they heard that Monkey and the others were the sworn brothers of the Araki Takashi. That Araki Takashi is probably dead. Tung Luo rubbed his chin and suddenly said, "Since we couldn't kill Araki Takashi, it's not a bad idea to kill his sworn brothers to vent our hatred. Should we head down and have some fun as well and stretch our muscles?" Tung Luo licked his lips. "I'm a little hungry. I can catch some food to eat." Remnant I did not move, and had no intention of getting up. Yu Luosha closed her eyes to rest as well, as though she did not want to participate in this battle. Goddess Xiaoxiang's gaze landed on Demoness Ji. Suddenly, she stood up and said coldly, "Leave this Demoness to me." "Oh," Tung Luo asked, "why are you interested in a woman, fellow Taoist Xiaoxiang?" "I haven't seen anyone with a prettier face than mine," Goddess Xiaoxiang said indifferently. "If there is, I'll destroy her personally." "Ruthless, I like it." Tung Luo burst into laughter. Young Master Gui Wu stood up slowly as well and looked at Shura in midair, saying coldly, "Seems like I'll have to deal with this person personally." On the battlefield, although the 5 monkey siblings, Demoness Ji and Ming Zhen had joined in, it did not affect the situation much. There were less than 50 three-legged golden crows that they were holding back. In other words, most of the three-legged golden crows, including the 3 golden crow princes, were still attacking Yen Beichen in a frenzy. Against such a terrifying attack, Yen Beichen's aura was rising continuously. The stronger the hatred in his heart, the stronger the power of the Hatred Sutra. Even the 3 golden crow princes, and hundreds of golden crows, could not suppress him. I hate. Yen Beichen roared, and his eyes were pitch black as he waved his hatred fiend saber. A series of hatred fiend chi revolved around him in a dense, endless manner, devouring all the dermic arts. Poof! Yen Beichen was wounded by a three-legged golden crow. However, Yen Beichen slashed in reverse and killed the three-legged golden crow. A single wound was exchanged for the life of a three-legged golden crow. Poof! A bone-deep wound appeared on Yen Beichen's chest that was dripping with blood. However, as though he could not feel any pain, he slashed in reverse and sliced the three-legged golden crow into two. The essence spirit of the three-legged golden crow was devoured by the hatred fiend chi and died on the spot. Kill! 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 Yen Beichen had already lost his rationality and was immersed in the state of the hatred sutra. He could not feel any pain or pressure. There was only endless hatred left in his heart. He only wanted to kill all the living beings before him. The wounds on Yen Beichen's body increased. However, the three-legged golden crows that died to the hatred fiend saber increased as well. The ground was littered with three-legged golden crow corpses. There were more than 100 of them. It was a shocking sight. What are you guys waiting for? The seventh crown prince shouted. He knew very well that when Yen Beichen was completely immersed in the hatred sutra, his hatred would be endless, and his strength would be endless. His combat strength would rise infinitely. Unless his stamina was depleted, nobody could defend against his attacks. Back in the ancient war, the fiend emperor hatred had fallen into such a state. At that time, countless experts of the primordial races died to the hatred fiend saber. Young Master Guiwu smiled gently and walked towards Yen Beichen. A strange glint shone in his green eyes that were filled with a strange power. The next moment, the three-legged golden crow before Yen Beichen vanished. In its place was a familiar figure. Pian ran. Yen Beichen was stunned and exclaimed instinctively, "Brother Yen, it's me. I'm not dead." The beautiful figure turned around and smiled faintly at Yen Beichen as she said gently, "Pian Ran, you're not dead. You're not dead." Yen Beichen was emotional, and tears rolled down his face as he put down the hatred fiend saber in his hands. Clang! Clang! Sensing danger, the hatred fiend saber buzzed and sent out warnings repeatedly. Yen Beichen was completely immersed in the illusion and could not extricate himself. Shura. When she noticed that, Demoness Ji had an anxious expression. In a flash, she rushed to Yen Beichen's side and helped him out of the illusion. Right then, a figure appeared in front of Demoness Ji. Goddess Xiaoxiang had an indifferent expression as she looked down at Demoness Ji from above. A hint of jealousy flashed through her eyes as she said coldly, "Demoness, I'm your opponent." End of chapter. Chapter 1561. Demoness Ji's heart skipped a beat. The Xiaoxiang goddess before her was no ordinary Protoss, but the strongest monster incarnate of the Protoss in recent years. Now that she was targeted by such a monster incarnate of a Protoss, Demoness Ji could not divert her attention to worry about Shura. That was because she was in an extremely dangerous situation as well. "Sister, I'm not your match. Can't we talk?" Demoness Ji's eyes were slightly red, and she had an aggrieved expression as she said with tears in her eyes. The bewitchment technique of the Pure Maiden Sutra did not care about race or gender. It was a Tao art that could bewitch all living beings and topple the world. Anyone who saw Demoness Ji's pitiful appearance would feel a sense of love and pity for her. Even Ting Luo, who was at the side, was slightly stunned as a sinister glint flashed through the depths of his eyes. However, he snapped back to his senses before long and licked his lips, murmuring softly, "This little Demoness is quite capable." If it was any other Protoss, they would definitely be bewitched upon seeing Demoness Ji as such. However, the Xiaoxiang goddess reacted extremely quickly, and two divine lights burst forth from her eyes. She released her God's Eye technique right away and tore through the air. The visual technique descended and broke through the intent realm created by Demoness Ji instantly. Demoness Ji executed nimble steps and dodged the two visual techniques by a hair's breadth. Her pink skirt was sliced by the two divine lights and turned into nothingness. Demoness Ji was secretly shocked. Although the Pure Maiden sect specialized in bewitchment techniques, their blood chi and physique were ordinary. If these two divine lights landed on her body, she was afraid that they would directly pierce through her body. Boom! The Shaoxiang goddess strode forward and threw a punch towards Demoness Ji. Golden light burst forth, and before the punch landed, the entire void trembled. It was truly hard to imagine that a casual punch from such a woman could release such ferocious power. Demoness Ji did not dare to take it head-on. In a flash, she shifted gracefully and dodged once more. The Shaoxiang goddess sneered, and her blood qi surged. Golden lights shone from her body as she chased relentlessly like a god. In terms of physique and blood qi, Protoss were ranked at the top of the primordial 9 races. As a Protoss, Goddess Xiaoxiang's physical body and qi blood force could suppress all other prodigies of the same level. There was no doubt that Demoness Ji would lose if she fought him head-on. Therefore, right from the start, Demoness Ji had been using nimble steps to dodge continuously. Although Goddess Xiaoxiang's attacks were ferocious, she could not lock onto Demoness Ji, and her attacks missed repeatedly. Fairy Linglong had taught her the exquisite steps, and it was no small matter. Even the Xiaoxiang goddess could not do anything to Demoness Ji. On the other side, Yin Beichen was affected by young Master Gui Wu's primordial spirit, and fell into an illusion. He was unable to extricate himself, and was in great danger. Even though the hatred demon saber kept warning Yin Beichen, it could not wake him up. The sorcerer tribe's cultivation of the primordial spirit was the most terrifying. Young Master Gui Wu was a terrifying existence that could control people's hearts. Young Master Gui Wu's attack this time round was even more terrifying than hundreds of three-legged golden crows. It was like a venomous snake in the darkness that bit Yin Beichen's vitals. External forces could not break through the hatred intent realm at all. Even if all the primordial 6 races attacked, Yin Beichen would not be able to break free from the hatred intent realm. If he wanted to break free of the hatred intent realm, he could only attack Yin Beichen. As for Qin Pian Ran, he was Yin Beichen's only weakness. Clang! Clang! Suddenly, the hatred fiend saber broke free from Yin Beichen's palm, and transformed into a black beam of light that circled around him, blocking all the incoming dermic weapons. Immediately after, the hatred fiend saber turned around and stabbed Yin Beichen's chest. Exclamation point! It pierced Yin Beichen's chest with a single slash. What happened? Is the fiend saber trying to kill its master? Something's not right. That fiend saber seems to be trying to wake Yin Beichen up. The crowd was shocked when they saw that. However, Yin Beichen, who was trapped in the illusion, suddenly clutched his chest with a pained expression. With a dull grunt, he broke free from the illusion, and his eyes gradually regained clarity. Good brother, thank you very much. Yin Beichen murmured softly and gripped the hatred fiend saber in reverse, withdrawing it from his chest. The hatred fiend qi coiled around the wound, and not a single drop of blood flowed out. Yin Beichen gripped the hatred fiend saber tightly once more, and suddenly felt waves of weakness and fatigue. Initially, he could not feel any pain or fatigue when he entered the hatred intent realm. Under the stimulation of the hatred fiend qi, he fought bravely. But now, although he broke free from young Master Gui Wu's illusion, he was also freed from the hatred intent realm, and instantly felt a sharp pain. Up till this point of the battle, there were countless wounds on his body against the encirclement of the Golden Crow race. He might not be able to hold on if the battle continued. Monkey and the others were not optimistic about being surrounded either. Everyone was in danger. Young Master Gui Wu smiled gently to 7th Prince. The hatred intent realm has been broken. I'll leave the rest to you guys. Thank you, 7th Prince nodded gently. Without the support of the hatred intent realm, Yin Beichen could not defend against the encirclement of the Golden Crow race. Bang! Right then, an incomparably thick blood vine tore through the air, and whipped Yin Beichen's chest heavily, sending him flying. Ha 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 ha! Tung Luo's laughter sounded. Gui Wu, you've already had your fill. I haven't even attacked yet. When he saw that, the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace was enraged and could no longer hold it in as he hollered. Tung Luo, are the primordial 6 races going to follow the rules? You guys clearly agreed to fight one-on-one. When you saw that you couldn't win, you joined forces with your entire race to suppress the Shura. Now that your Bloodvine race, Protoss, and Witch race are attacking, What's the meaning of this? That's right. Snowdrift Valley's Valley Master slapped the table and stood up, saying in a deep voice, "The living beings of the 10,000 races are all here. How can the primordial 6 races be so domineering? Disregard the rules and go back on your words. How can the 10,000 races be convinced?" Cultivators from Purple Firmament Sect, Dipamkara Monastery, Overlord Palace, the immortal Buddhist and Fiend sects stood out one after another and hollered, "Rules." The smile on Tung Luo's face vanished and his expression turned cold. He looked at the patriarch of the super sects and said coldly, "Rules are set for weaklings like you. The strong are there to break the rules. Furthermore, the primordial 6 races will have the final say in the rules of Tianhuang mainland from now on. All of you have to listen up. Why should we?" A cultivator was indignant and could not help but mutter, "The primordial 6 races are still in charge of Tianhuang mainland right now." Suddenly, a blood vine burrowed out from the ground beneath the cultivator's feet and pierced his chest. The cultivator's face was pale as he lowered his head slowly and looked at the thick blood vine that popped out from his chest. His gaze was shocked and blood flowed continuously from his mouth. The gigantic mouth at the top of the blood vine opened slowly, revealing its menacing fangs that shone with a cold glint as it swallowed the cultivator's head. The fangs retracted and almost bit off the cultivator's neck, causing a blood mist to spray out. Right in front of everyone, the blood vine squirmed and swallowed the cultivator into its stomach before long. Blood essence surged into Tung Luo's body through the thick blood vine. Suddenly, a series of strange blood scars appeared on Tung Luo's face. They crawled all over his face like spiderwebs and disappeared before long. With a ferocious expression, Tung Luo stuck out his scarlet tongue and licked his lips, grinning. "What fresh flesh! It's delicious." End of chapter. Chapter 1562. Many cultivators felt their hairs stand on end when they saw that. That was a conjoint body mighty figure of Overlord Palace. Yet he was devoured by Tung Luo just like that. Bloody hell! What's there to be afraid of? The Overlord Palace's master could no longer hold it in, and withdrew a gigantic spear from his storage bag, slamming it heavily on the ground and shouting, "The reason why we of the Fiend sects cultivate is to seek freedom and freedom. Now that we're living such a sullen life, we might as well fight with all our might. Even if I die, I want to die with a bang." "That's right." The patriarch of Shura sect stood out as well and said coldly, "At most, we'll just die. Who doesn't die? Even if you're an emperor, you won't live as long as heaven and earth and shine with the sun and moon. You'll die of old age one day." Of the 7 Fiend sects, Overlord Palace, Shura sect and Pure Maiden sect stood out. The patriarch of Purple Firmament sect stood up slowly and said in a deep voice, "If we have to endure this humiliation, what's the point of living forever?" Immediately after, Snowdrift Valley and Soaring Feather sect of the Immortal sects stood out. All the monks of the Buddhist monasteries stood up. Of the 5 heretical doctrines, Little Fatty of Tomb sect and Shurjian of Puppet sect stood out as well. Cultivators of the 4 unorthodox groups stood up as well. Of the 3 ancient aristocratic families, the Nangong family and Baiming family stood out. Many cultivators of Enigma Palace stepped forward. Instantly, the crowd was agitated. One after another, powerful figures soared into the air from the human race and burst forth with incomparably domineering auras to fight against Tung Luo. The primordial 6 races had descended and massacred the human race wantonly. The cultivators had suppressed their anger and could not hold it in any longer with nowhere to vent it. Not everyone in the human race was a coward. The old storyteller had once said that the cultivation world merely lacked a true expert who could rally and lead the human race. Now the patriarch of Overlord Palace and Shura sect stood out. That scene seemed to have triggered a chain reaction, as the crowd stood up as well. Many cultivators felt their blood boil as they glared at Tung Luo and the Bloodvine race with killing intent. Their initial fear had long been forgotten. "Oh." Tung Luo's eyes shone brightly, and he looked excited. He grinned and said, "What? You bunch of ants still want to defy the heavens? I advise you to calm down." Right then the sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect said coldly, "Right now, you guys are merely hot-blooded and impulsive. Don't wait a little longer. By then, It'll be too late for regrets. Just as the crowd's blood was boiling, someone poured a bucket of cold water on them. Hee hee, the Valley Master of Snowdrift Valley sneered. Lang Qing, it's truly humiliating for someone like you to be the patriarch of an immortal sect. The malevolent Earth sect master replied. Fufu, I think that fellow Taoist Lang Qing's words make sense as well. I'll kindly remind everyone that it's best not to fight with fellow Taoists of the primordial 6 races. Penglai Island's island master crossed his arms and sneered. Since you guys are courting death, don't blame us for not helping you. How shameless. Little Fatty hollered. I think Penglai Island has already submitted to the primordial 6 races, right? The island master of Penglai Island had a calm expression. What's wrong with submitting? The primordial races recuperate and return in a domineering manner. They'll definitely dominate Tianhuang mainland and rule over the 4 directions. If Penglai Island doesn't choose to submit, should we send ourselves to our deaths with you guys? It's like hitting a rock with an egg. What a joke. Many cultivators felt disgusted when they saw the island master of Penglai Island's face. Live well. You're way too naive. The Overlord Palace's master sneered. The primordial 6 races will definitely enslave the 10,000 races if they rule over Tianhuang mainland. With the ancient war as a precedent, do you think that the primordial 6 races will let the human race off? The palace master of Enigma Palace waved his hand gently. Our Daos are different, so there's no need to fight. Cultivators of our generation would rather die standing than live on our knees. Kill! 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 The group of cultivators roared. A bunch of ants shouting and screaming. Kill them for me. Tung Luo waved his hand and ordered, being the first to lunge into the crowd. Hundreds of Bloodvine clan members charged forward and took root in the ground. They waved their thick blood vines and interweaved into an inescapable net, filled with blood chi between the heavens and the earth. The moment both sides collided, a blood mist spread and countless cultivators died. However, against the attacks of many cultivators, there were also bloodvine beings who were killed on the spot. Enraged, Tung Luo reverted to his true form as well. Dozens of blood vines tore through the air and crushed more than 10 cultivators, descending upon the Overlord Palace's master. Dozens of blood vines coiled around the Overlord Palace's master. Die! Tung Luo's voice sounded with a cold killing intent and endless rage. Poof! A blood mist exploded, and the Overlord Palace's master was killed by Tung Luo. Boom! Right then, a pitch-black beam of light descended and pierced Purple Firmament Sect's Patriarch's head instantly. Without a single word, Purple Firmament Sect's Patriarch's headless corpse fell from midair. The remnant I had attacked. A single visual technique killed the Overlord Palace's master. Not far away, many heavenly eye beings charged over. If it was only the Bloodvine race, the many experts of the human race could still fight against them. However, with the addition of the Heavenly Eye race, there was no longer any suspense in this battle. The opening of the Heavenly Eye was way too lethal. Cultivators fell to the ground one by one. Their broken limbs danced in the air. Tragic cries, wails and cries reverberated through the world. Young master, are you afraid that you'll be tainted by the dirty blood of those human ants? Why don't you let us go and have some fun? Some of the Rakshasas could not hold back any longer, and were tempted as well. Yuluocha sighed in her heart, closed her eyes and nodded. In her opinion, the human race was doomed even if the Rakshasas did not attack. Groar! One after another, ferocious-looking Rakshasas danced in midair with scimitars in their hands and swept through the crowd. Everywhere they passed, there would definitely be a bloodbath. The addition of the Rakshasas caused the front line of the cultivators to collapse instantly. Finally, some cultivators could not take it anymore and fled into the distance. Fear was contagious. A second, a third. Once the momentum of the collapse was formed, it could no longer be stopped. A large number of cultivators began to flee. However, against the pursuit of the Rakshasas and Golden Crow race, no one could escape from Enigma Palace. Not a single person. Roar! Tung Luo reverted to his human form and stood in midair. He looked at the fleeing cultivators with an excited expression and bit down on a large piece of flesh as he laughed maniacally. You bunch of cowardly ants, why don't you come and fight? Ha 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 ha. Many members of the primordial races roared with laughter as they slaughtered. Tung Luo's blood vine pierced Ji Qingtian's chest and dragged him in front of him slowly, smirking sinisterly. Human paragon. Monster incarnate? You're all trash. Ji Qingtian's face was pale, and he spat out blood continuously. However, there was no fear in his eyes as he said slowly, if Araki Takashi of the human race was around, killing you guys would be as easy as slaughtering dogs. Tung Luo's expression darkened. That name was an immense humiliation for the Bloodvine race. That's right. Snowdrift Valley's patriarch dragged his severely injured body and said sternly, if Araki Takashi was around, the young masters of the primordial 6 races would be nothing more than a joke. In my brother's eyes, the primordial 6 races are the ants and trash. Little Fatty hugged the severely injured Shi Jian and roared with tears in his eyes. Araki Takashi? Tung Luo sneered. The primordial 6 races are gathered here. If he hides obediently, he can still live for a few more days. If he dares to appear, I'll let him know who the true expert is, who is invincible among those of the same cultivation realm. Shoo! A cold light tore through the air and arrived instantly, piercing Tung Luo's glabella. Watch out! Remnant I suddenly hollered. Tung Luo's expression changed in shock. That cold light was way too fast. By the time he reacted, the cold light had already descended. He did not even have time to revert to his true form, and could only raise his palm instinctively. Poof! The cold light penetrated his palm, and pierced through Tung Luo's glabella, piercing his head. The cold light was stained with scarlet blood, and its remnant might was still present, as it shot a gigantic hole in the wings of another Rakshasa. The tremendous power blew apart the Rakshasa's wings. The Rakshasa cried out tragically and fell from midair. The cold light seemed like a long arrow, but it was incorporeal, and gradually dissipated in front of everyone. Tung Luo was dead? The young master of the Bloodvine race was killed by a single arrow? The world seemed to have paused for a moment, because of the descent of that arrow. Who's there? Remnant I stood up slowly and asked sternly. A cold voice descended, and reverberated through Enigma Palace deafeningly. I'm Araki Takashi. The website charges by word count, and this update is a little too long. Readers, you might have to spend an additional 2 book coins. End of chapter. Chapter 1563. I'm Araki Takashi. When those 4 words landed in the crowd, it was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples, shocking all the living beings of the 10,000 races. The words seemed to have some kind of magic. The cultivators who were in the middle of a fierce battle subconsciously stopped what they were doing and looked in the direction of the voice. Araki Takashi was a title that everyone in the world knew about. Even among the primordial 6 races, he was infamous. Back in the Battle of Myriad Phenomenon City, the primordial races knew that a monster incarnate was born in the human race. In fact, he could even fight against the Rakshasa and Protoss at the Jin Dan realm. However, the primordial races were not bothered. However, perfected being Jin Dan posed no threat to the primordial races. It was only after the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley that the name of Araki Takashi spread completely among the primordial 6 races. As such, it attracted the attention of the primordial 6 races, and they issued killing orders one after another, wanting to kill Araki Takashi. However, to think that in the battle on 6-Star Mountain 100 years ago, more than 10,000 Bloodvine race clansmen died, and their young master, Tung Lingzi, died as well. However, Araki Takashi vanished from Tianhuang mainland, and there was no news of him ever since. Young Master Gui Wu, Goddess Xiaoxiang, Remnant I and the other young masters of the primordial races were extremely proud and confident. They were not afraid of Araki Takashi at all. In their opinion, even if Araki Takashi was still alive, he would definitely not dare to appear in today's convention. The primordial 6 races were gathered, and the killing order was still in place. If Araki Takashi dared to come, it would be equivalent to him walking into a trap and courting death. However, they had not expected Araki Takashi to really come. Furthermore, the moment he appeared, he killed the new young master of the Bloodvine race and shot down a Rakshasa. Young Master Gui Wu had a grim expression, Goddess Xiaoxiang frowned as well. Just now, even they might not be able to escape unscathed from that arrow. In the chaotic battle, none of them noticed the arrow. Only Remnant Eye's powerful senses sensed the danger and warned them. However, it was too late. Tung Lua was already a dead man. With the help of Lung Ro, Ji Qingtian pulled out the blood vine that had pierced through his chest. Although his face was pale, he looked excited. Zimo is here. Yes, he's here. Lung Ro nodded as well. Don't worry. With Zimo around, these primordial races won't be able to cause much trouble. Big brother. Little Fatty couldn't help but laugh out loud. Silly Jian, look. My big brother is here. Little Fatty shook Shi Jian's body with all his might. Shi Jian was already seriously injured. After being shaken by Little Fatty a few times, his bones almost fell apart. He said weakly, "Damn Fatty, are you trying to shake me to death?" Although Shi Jian was cursing, for some reason, his eyes reddened and he began to cry. Araki Takashi. It's Araki Takashi. Many cultivators who were fleeing stopped in their tracks and looked up with excited expressions. It's Araki Takashi of the human race. The paragon of the human race. Initially, the confidence of many cultivators had already collapsed. However, after Araki Takashi's arrival, many cultivators regained their hope and fighting spirit. Under countless gazes, a figure appeared on the city walls of Enigma Palace. He was dressed in green robes, had black hair and a burning gaze. There was a malevolent aura between his brows, and he wielded a jade-green gigantic bow. The green-robed cultivator walked towards the battlefield unhurriedly. However, the voids would tremble with every single step he took. An extremely terrifying torrential aura burst forth from the green-robed cultivator, as though he wanted to trample all living beings beneath his feet. Araki Takashi. Young Master Guiwu stood up slowly and narrowed his eyes. The Remnant Eye stood up as well. A pair of pitch-black eye sockets were facing Su Zimo's direction, emitting a dim light. Yu Luocha looked at the newcomer and frowned slightly. That green-robed cultivator must be that person's clone. Among everyone present, Yu Luocha was the only one who knew of the existence of Wu Dao's true body. In Yu Luocha's eyes, although the green-robed cultivator looked identical to Wu Dao's true body, there was still a huge difference in terms of aura. Yu Luocha's heart skipped a beat as she lamented internally. You've bullied me for so long. I'll bully your clone later, so that it won't be considered as betraying you. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace looked at Su Zimo, who was walking over slowly with a conflicted expression. It had only been 100 years and Su Zimo had already entered the half-martial ancestor realm. His cultivation speed was terrifying. Under normal circumstances, he had quite a bit of conflict with Su Zimo. The dermic breaking bow in Su Zimo's hands should have been his dermic weapon. Furthermore, it was precisely because of Su Zimo that he was stripped of his position as the Palace Lord, and had to reflect on his mistakes in seclusion before regaining his freedom this year. However, at that moment, the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace could not feel any hatred towards Su Zimo. He only hoped that Su Zimo could protect the final dignity of the cultivation world and the human race. Because of Su Zimo's appearance, there was a momentary pause on the battlefield. Many primordial races stopped their slaughter and turned to look over. What are you guys looking at? Young Master Guiwu glared at Su Zimo coldly and suddenly said, "Leave this person to me. Continue killing until all the humans submit." Upon hearing that, many primordial races reacted and continued their pursuit. Hundreds of three-legged golden crows were prepared to launch their final attack on Monkey, and the others towards Yen Beichen. Shh! With a cold expression, Su Zimo suddenly raised his hand and pulled the dermic breaking bow. An arrow of dermic power condensed and shot into the group of three-legged golden crows, exploding into a blood mist. Hundreds of three-legged golden crows gathered together could not dodge the arrow at all. Given Su Zimo's cultivation as a half-martial ancestor, the arrow shot with dermic power, with the help of the dermic breaking bow, was extremely terrifying, and the three-legged golden crows could not defend against it at all. That arrow pierced through the bodies of at least 5 or 6 three-legged golden crows. The three-legged golden crows at the front endured the most ferocious power of the dermic power arrow, and their bodies exploded. Their essence spirits were destroyed on the spot, and they died. That arrow caused the battlefield to pause once more. What's there to be afraid of? The ninth prince said coldly, "That's an ancient unique treasure, the dermic breaking bow. It has an extremely long cooldown time." He had just shot an arrow, and before he could shoot a second arrow, he was already a dead man. "Kill him." The ninth prince's figure flashed as he charged towards the severely injured and weak Yen Beichen. Shoo! Right then, the sound of an arrow tearing through the air sounded and arrived before him instantly. What? He shot a second arrow so quickly? The ninth prince's heart skipped a beat as he instinctively reached out with his golden crow claws and grabbed the arrow. Boom! The arrow shattered. The ninth prince's palm was pierced by the arrow as well and was dripping with blood. Ah! The ninth prince cried out in pain. Shoo! Before he could react, a second arrow descended. How is that possible? The ninth prince's expression changed starkly. Without hesitation, he turned into a streak of golden light and wanted to release an escape technique to escape. Shoo! 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 Immediately after, 3 arrows tore through the air and sealed off the ninth prince's escape route. Old Ninth! The seventh prince exclaimed. Even he, young Master Gui Wu, Remnant Eye and the other young masters of the primordial races, did not expect Su Zimo to be able to pull the dermic breaking bow continuously and shoot arrows, let alone the ninth prince. An arrow pierced the ninth prince's chest. The tremendous power directly blasted his fleshly body into pieces. A Yuan spirit had a panicked expression as it escaped by a hair's breadth. Oem! Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly, and a Sanskrit sound descended. The ninth prince's essence spirit shuddered gently. Under everyone's gaze, its light dimmed, and it dissipated into the world. The ninth prince was dead? There were only 3 updates today. His head hurt and he couldn't write anymore. End of chapter. Chapter 1564. The entire process took a long time to describe. Su Zimo shot 5 arrows in the blink of an eye. Even the other 2 princes did not manage to react before the ninth prince died. Most importantly, no one expected the ancient unique treasure, Dharma Eradication Bow, to be able to release such terrifying power in the hands of Su Zimo. Even the primordial 6 races were shocked, let alone the living beings of the myriad races present. All these years, the living beings of the 10,000 races had long heard of Araki Takashi's name. He was decisive in killing, and was the #1 monster incarnate of the human race. However, they had not expected that after witnessing it with their own eyes today, Araki Takashi would be even more terrifying, domineering and sharper than they had imagined. It had only been a short while since Araki Takashi arrived at Enigma Palace, and the 7th Prince and Ting Luo, 2 half-martial ancestor experts, were dead. It was way too ruthless. Prior to this, the cultivation world would tremble in fear if they wanted to kill an ordinary expert of the primordial races. Furthermore, they had to pay an extremely heavy price. But now, Araki Takashi had attacked and shot down 2 young masters consecutively, shocking the primordial 6 races on the spot. The entire Enigma Palace was filled with a thick blood stench. Although the experts of the primordial 6 races stopped temporarily in midair, everyone could sense that an even more violent storm was about to arrive. This time round, even the 7th and 10th princes gave up on hunting down Yen Beichen for the time being, and turned to Su Zimo. Young Master Gui Wu's eyes danced with a dark green glint, and a white bone staff appeared in his hands unknowingly. Facing Su Zimo, the heavenly eye in his glabella cracked open with an extremely terrifying aura, as though it could open at any moment. Yu Luosha stood up slowly as well, and prepared to attack. Goddess Xiaoxiang, on the other hand, did not take Su Zimo seriously. She had chased after Demoness Ji for so long, and was about to kill her with her terrifying aura and powerful physique. There was naturally no way she would give up so easily. Kill! Suddenly, the 7th Crown Prince let out a long cry as his body transformed into a beam of golden light that shot into the sky and into the ground. He then began to circle around Su Zimo in an unfathomable manner. In his heart, he was extremely wary of Su Zimo's Lawbreaker Bow. This was the only way to avoid being targeted by the Spellbreaker Bow. This long howl was like the horn of war, and it restarted the bloody battle. The experts of the primordial 6 races charged into the crowd of cultivators of Snowdrift Valley, Overlord Palace, Dipankara Temple and others, and massacred them wantonly. Blood gushed out and corpses littered the ground. At the same time, young Master Gui Wu waved his staff and chanted a series of strange incantations. Suddenly, 9 menacing skulls appeared beside him. Evil chi filled the air, and their eyes shone with a faint green light. They glared at Su Zimo and charged over. Whoosh! A figure tore through the air at a shocking speed and arrived before Su Zimo in the blink of an eye. Reaching out with her slender hand, she struck towards Su Zimo's shoulder. Only someone from the Rakshasa race could release such terrifying speed. As the young master of the Rakshasa race, Yuluosha was even faster. It was clear that she was holding back and did not summon her destiny dermic weapon or kill Su Zimo. Instead, she merely struck at Su Zimo's shoulder. Villain! Yuluosha glared at Su Zimo and sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. You've bullied me for so long. It's not too much for me to teach your clone a lesson, right? You want to teach me a lesson? You're thinking too much. Su Zimo glanced at Yuluosha indifferently. The moment the primordial races attacked, a pair of wings grew behind Su Zimo, and his body shone with electric arcs. Boom! A tiny crack appeared on the heavenly eye in the glabella of the remnant eye. However, countless runes surged and chaos chi filled the air, as though the world was about to split apart. A dark beam of light descended. Although the remnant eye was the last to attack, the dark beam of light was the first to arrive. Swash! Unfortunately, the moment the dark beam of light descended, Su Zimo's figure had already vanished from the spot. Ethereal wings, lightning escape and ground-traversing golden light burst forth at the same time, and charged out of the attacks of the young masters of the primordial races. The attacks of the young masters of the primordial races missed. The young masters of the primordial races had long forgotten the rules of fairness and fighting one-on-one. They attacked Araki Takashi at the same time. Su Zimo's figure had just appeared. 2 figures that burned with golden flames swooped over like blazing suns that had fallen from the skies, wanting to incinerate everything. The 2 golden crow princes found an opportunity to attack, and did not give Su Zimo any chance to catch his breath. However, the moment Su Zimo appeared, the spirit breaker bow in his hands was already drawn. A dermic power arrow with a terrifying aura was gathered on the bowstring. Shoo! The arrow tore through the air, and the power contained within it seemed as though it wanted to penetrate the 2 3-legged golden crows of the 7th and 10th princes. The 2 golden crow princes were charging towards Su Zimo to begin with, and could not stop their momentum at all. It was already too late for them to dodge. The 2 golden crows attacked at the same time. Boom! The claws of the 2 princes grabbed the dermic power arrow at the same time and shattered it. However, the 2 golden crow princes shuddered as well. The 7th prince was the strongest in combat, and merely felt his golden crow foot go numb. As for the 10th prince, he was the youngest and had the weaker combat strength. That arrow caused his blood chi to surge, and he could no longer feel the golden crow foot beneath his abdomen. Shoo! 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 Su Zimo drew his spirit breaker bow and shot out 3 arrows in succession. The first arrow was shot towards the 9 skulls that were flying over. Although the power of the skeleton curse was strong and evil, it was still a curse and could not escape the essence of dermic power. All kinds of spells were nothing in front of the spell-breaking bow. The 9 menacing skulls were penetrated by the dermic power arrow. They could not defend against the dermic power arrow for a moment. Instead, their dermic powers were absorbed by the arrow, causing the aura of the dermic power arrow to turn increasingly terrifying and faster. Right in front of countless gazes, the 9 skulls vanished after the dermic power arrow pierced through them. As for the dermic power arrow, it had already transformed into a gigantic spear that emitted a ghastly green glow and pierced towards the young Master Gui Wu. The young Master Gui Wu's expression changed starkly, and he nearly cursed. Given his physique and bloodline, he would most likely die if he was grazed by the spear, let alone take it head-on. Displacement swap. Suddenly, the young Master Gui Wu hollered and released a secret skill. Waving his staff, he pointed at a witch beside him. Suddenly, the young Master Gui Wu's figure vanished from the spot. He was replaced by the witch beside him. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the two of them swapped positions. Although it was only a short distance, the young Master Gui Wu was able to escape from the sharpness of the gigantic spear. Actually, displacement swap was a minor mystical power. The young Master Gui Wu had only advanced to the half-martial ancestor realm because he had comprehended a trace of the power of this mystical power. Right now he could only swap positions with the person beside him. Any further, and he would not be able to do it. If this minor mystical power was comprehended to the extreme, it could evolve into a peerless mystical power, stellar transposition. The power of that was not something that could be manifested by a simple displacement swap. Chapter 1565. Boom. The witch that was switched over by young Master Gui Wu could not react at all. In a daze, he was pierced by the gigantic spear, and his body exploded instantly, destroyed in both body and spirit. The lethality of the gigantic spear was not limited to that. Initially, there were more than 10 witches standing behind young Master Gui Wu. After shattering the body of the first witch, the gigantic spear did not weaken at all, and pierced into the crowd. Poof! 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 Flesh and blood splattered and clouds of blood mist exploded in a shocking manner. Caught off guard, the dozens of witches suffered devastating injuries. The witches that were pierced by the gigantic spear could not defend against it at all, and died on the spot, without any chance of survival. As for the witches who were slightly off, their bodies could not withstand the gigantic spear, and were torn apart instantly. Although the essence spirits of the witches were strong, their bodies were way too weak. The witches reacted faster, and abandoned their bodies with their essence spirits. Although they managed to preserve their lives, their bodies were completely gone. More witches were pierced by the gigantic spear on the spot. Out of the dozens of witches, only 3 survived. Furthermore, these 3 sorcerer tribe members were only left with an inexplicably terrified primordial spirit. It was trembling in midair. The rest of the sorcerer tribe members were shocked. They looked at Master Gui Wu in fear. Although the power of the dermic dispersal bow was great, it was only a dermic power arrow after all, and its lethality was limited. Just now, the reason why the witches suffered such heavy losses was all because of young Master Gui Wu. That was because he released a dermic art and betrayed his clansmen in order to escape. Young Master Gui Wu's expression turned grim when he sensed the gazes of his clansmen. That was only the first arrow that Su Zimo shot. Su Zimo's second arrow was shot towards Yuluosha, who was in midair. Yuluosha's speed was even faster than the 3-legged golden crow. Yuluosha chuckled and flapped her wings, dodging the dermic power arrow with ease. The young masters of the primordial races were wary of the dermic dispersal bow. However, Yuluosha did not think much of it. Given her speed, the dermic dispersal bow could not threaten her at all. As for Su Zimo's third arrow, it was aimed at the incoming black light. This black light was the eye technique that the remnant I just now released. Although Su Zimo dodged, the dark beam chased closely after him, as though it had a mind of its own. Boom! The magic power arrow collided with the black light, erupting with a loud bang. The Heavenly Eye Clan's eye technique was actually not broken by the mana arrow. There was a trace of divine power infused into that visual technique. The attacks of the 5 great young masters were all blocked by Su Zimo. At this moment, Su Zimo stood in the air and let out a long howl. The blood in his body surged as he drew the bow again. In Su Zimo's sea of consciousness, his primordial spirit had already been pushed to its limits. The lotus platform of creation spun slowly beneath him, and multicolored light filled the air, constantly nourishing his primordial spirit. The bow was like a full moon. The young masters of the primordial races had solemn expressions and were tense. Apart from Yuluocha, no one could underestimate the killing power of the spellbreaker bow. The 2 young masters that he had underestimated were already dead. Shoo! The arrow was like a shooting star. An arrow tore through the air. The young masters of the primordial races felt their hearts skip a beat. Some of them prepared to defend, while others prepared to dodge. However, before long, the young masters of the primordial races realized that the arrow was not aimed at them at all. Instead, it shot into the crowd. In the chaotic battlefield, a three-legged golden crow had a ferocious expression and a ferocious gaze as it launched a frenzied attack against Yen Beichen, releasing killing moves repeatedly. Suddenly, the three-legged golden crow felt his scalp prickle. The sound of an arrow tearing through the air sounded in his ears, and he could vaguely make out a cold glint from the corner of his eye. Immediately after, he felt a sharp pain in his mind. The next moment, he lost consciousness and fell into a boundless abyss. Right in front of everyone, the three-legged golden crow was killed by a single arrow from Su Zimo's spellbreaker bow. Shoo! 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 Right then, arrows tore through the air one after another in an endless stream. It was chilling to hear in this battlefield. The living beings of the 10,000 races raised their heads and opened their mouths. Their eyes were widened in shock, and they were so scared that they could not speak. In midair, the powerful figure with the torrential aura pulled the spellbreaker bow consecutively and shot out more than 100 dermic power arrows in the span of a few breaths. Even the young masters of the primordial races had to focus against a single dermic power arrow. More than 100 dermic power arrows descended from the skies like rain. What a shocking scene! The entire void seemed to have been penetrated by the 100 arrows. Boom! A Protoss who was chasing after a Snowdrift Valley cultivator was pierced in the chest by a dermic power arrow and fell to the ground with his chest exploding. Exclamation point! Another Rakshasa, who was chasing after a mighty figure of Shura sect, wanted to dodge, but it was too late. His head was pierced by an arrow, and he was nailed to a stone pillar in the distance, dead. Poof! 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 The arrow rain descended, and the experts of the witch Rakshasa, Heavenly Iron Protoss that were surrounding Monkey, and the others fell in droves. Not only were the dermic power arrows terrifying, their speed was shocking, and they were extremely accurate. Every single arrow could take down at least one expert of the primordial races. That lethality was almost devastating for the primordial 6 races. The 100 dermic power arrows killed far more than 100 experts of the primordial races. Some of the dermic power arrows could penetrate 3 to 4, or even 5 primordial races, and kill them on the spot. In just a few breaths, more than 200 experts of the primordial races had fallen. There were even more severely injured. The crowd was shocked. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked. The experts of the primordial 6 races were scared pale. Let's see who dares to move. Su Zimo stood in midair with the spellbreaker bow in hand. His gaze was like lightning as he surveyed his surroundings like an unparalleled god, and suddenly hollered. His voice exploded like thunder in the ears of the experts of the primordial races. The experts of the primordial 6 races shuddered in fear. Many primordial races looked at the figure in midair with deep wariness and fear in their eyes. A rain of arrows stunned the experts of the primordial 6 races on the spot. None of the primordial races dared to move again. Araki Takashi, when some cultivators saw that, they felt their hearts stir and tears brimmed in their eyes as they could not help but shout, "Araki Takashi! Araki Takashi!" Countless cultivators roared loudly with bloodshot eyes, and their voices shook the 9 heavens. Ever since they came to participate in the convention of 10,000 races, they had suffered too much injustice, grievance, and bullying. They watched helplessly as their fellow disciples were killed by the primordial races. They watched as their patriarch died in the hands of the primordial races, but did not dare to step forward. They watched as the primordial races were arrogant and condescending, but no one stood out to fight against them. And all the anger, grievance, and unwillingness had been vented out in that instant. So what if they were from the primordial races? It was as Ji Qingtian had said. Araki Takashi killed the primordial races like dogs. The palace master of Enigma Palace stood out with an agitated expression and bowed deeply in the direction of Su Zimo, saying loudly, "Fellow Taoist Araki Takashi, if there's a next time, I'm willing to hand over the spellbreaker bow personally. You're the only one who's worthy of that ancient unique treasure." It was only at this moment that his grudge against Su Zimo for snatching the spellbreaker bow dissipated. Chapter 1566. What sort of status was the palatial lord of Enigma Palace? Although their cultivation realms were the same, there was a huge difference in their statuses. The bow of the palatial lord of Enigma Palace was extremely important. Right then, the patriarch of Snowdrift Valley dragged his severely injured body and bowed towards Araki Takashi. "Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist Araki Takashi." Then the leader of the Flying Feather sect, the abbot of the Burning Lamp Temple, and the leaders of the four unorthodox groups, all the renowned cultivators in the world of cultivators, stood out. "Thank you, Araki Takashi." Many cultivators shouted in unison. That was a heartfelt gratitude from everyone. That was because if not for Araki Takashi's arrow rain, countless cultivators and fellow disciples would have died among them. Most importantly, Araki Takashi's appearance had protected the final dignity of the human race. At that moment, the eyes of many cultivators turned moist. They could vaguely see the supreme might of the ancient emperors in Araki Takashi. Right then a cultivator said softly, "The emperors are not here, but I'm here." Many cultivators knew that this was what Su Zimo, who was only a perfected Jin Dan, said to the Protoss and the Rakshasa race back in Myriad Phenomenon City. Later on, when it spread into the cultivation world, it was mocked by the major sects and factions. It was only now that everyone knew that Araki Takashi was the only one who could say such words. Araki Takashi was the only one who was worthy of being compared to the ancient emperors. Araki Takashi was able to intimidate the primordial 6 races single-handedly with his bow. This was a scene that would definitely be recorded in history. Many cultivators were emotional. The young masters of the primordial 6 races had varying expressions as well. Among them, Yuluosha was most likely the one with the most complicated emotions. Initially, she did not take Qinglian's true body and the Dharma dispersing bow seriously. In her mind, this was only one of Araki Takashi's doppelgangers. With her speed, she could easily avoid the attack of the spellbreaker bow. Just now, however, this scene had completely overturned her thoughts. If those hundreds of magic power arrows were to shoot towards her, she would definitely not be able to escape, even if she grew a few pairs of wings. Could it be that I cannot defeat this evil person's clone? Yuluocha looked at the figure in the air, a trace of confusion flashing across her eyes. The huge battlefield was completely silent. The experts of the primordial races had solemn expressions. They became even more cautious and waited for an opportunity to act. At this moment, Goddess Xiaoxiang glanced sideways at the sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect, who was not far away. A cold glint flashed across her eyes. The 7th Crown Prince turned his gaze and looked at the Penglai Island's island master, who was not far away. The sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect shuddered and suddenly stood up, shouting, "Araki Takashi, today is the convention of the myriad races. How can the convention of the myriad races continue if you're so savage and start a massacre? If the peace talks with the primordial 6 races fail because of you, you'll be the sinner of the human race. F***ck your mother." Little Fatty could not hold it in any longer and cursed loudly. The Valley Master of Snowdrift Valley said coldly as well, "Let me ask your Heavenly Dipper sect whether it was the primordial races that started a massacre, or Araki Takashi that started a massacre in today's battle. Did more primordial races die or did more humans die?" The sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect was rendered speechless. The Penglai Island's island master stood up and said in a deep voice, "It's normal for there to be some conflicts and fights when the 10,000 races gather. Now that everyone has stopped, we can sit down and talk again. Do we have to talk just because you say so?" Su Zimo glanced sideways at the Penglai Island's island master and asked instead. The Penglai Island's island master's heart seemed to have stopped beating when he was glanced at by Su Zimo. A chill ran down his spine, and he shut his mouth immediately. Earlier on, he had truly sensed the aura of death. If he dared to say another word, he was certain that Araki Takashi would definitely attack and kill him on the spot. Right then, Chaos Essence Sect's Patriarch stood up and said, "Araki Takashi, it's understandable that you have a feud with the primordial 6 races. However, this is the convention of the myriad races. Don't just care about your personal grudges, and vent your emotions, and implicate the entire human race. What nonsense! You're distorting the truth. The palace lord of Enigma Palace hollered. The patriarch of Sword Sect said slowly as well. If the young masters of the primordial races want to negotiate now, I think it's appropriate for Araki Takashi to stop and sit down for a discussion. Just now, Chaos Essence Sect and Sword Sect had yet to express their stance. Although they did not stand on the side of the primordial 6 races, they did not have the courage to stand out and fight the primordial races. However, the appearance of Araki Takashi made the patriarch of the 2 sects unable to sit still. Chaos Essence Sect said that Araki Takashi was only concerned about his personal grudges. Actually, the reason why the 2 patriarch sects expressed their stance was because of their personal grudges with Araki Takashi. Oh, Suzumo raised his brow and asked instead, "Who do you guys think you are to represent the human race?" Araki Takashi, the Zephyr Thunder Palace's master, hollered. "Don't be insolent. As the patriarch of the immortal sects, how can we not represent the human race? The human race is being massacred by the primordial 6 races, and the few of you are just sitting there and watching indifferently. Are you even worthy of being called humans? How can you represent the human race when you're not even humans?" The moment he said that, the faces of Chaos Essence Sect, Sword Sect, and the other patriarch sects flushed red, and they felt their faces burning. That's right. How are you worthy of being called an immortal sect with that bit of guts? It's truly humiliating for cultivators of Soaring Feather Sect to be on the same side as them and be ranked as immortal sects. Cultivators of Sword Sect would rather die than submit and advance with indomitable will. The current Sword Sect has long lost the sharpness of the sword cultivators of the ancient era. What a disgrace to our patriarchs! Many cultivators who survived the battle just now sneered. When they heard those voices, Chaos Essence Sect, Sword Sect, and the other patriarch sects were even more embarrassed, and their faces turned ashen. The young masters of the primordial races sneered in midair and did not attack, merely watching the show from the side. It would be most advantageous for them if the human race started fighting internally first. Araki Takashi, don't spout nonsense. Chaos Essence Sect's patriarch Sex grit his teeth. As the patriarch of the immortal sects, Fufu. Before Chaos Essence Sect's patriarch Sex could finish, he was interrupted by Suzumo's cold laughter. Let me tell you. Suzumo's gaze landed on Sword Sect, Chaos Essence Sect, Heavenly Dipper Sect, and the other immortal and fiend sects as he said slowly. The current cultivation world is not your world, and you guys can't make the decision. Under your leadership, the human race will only be bullied and suppressed. Today, I'll make the decision in Enigma Palace. Fellow Taoists, are you willing to follow me today and listen to my orders? Suzumo surveyed his surroundings and asked loudly. We're willing. Many cultivators roared excitedly. You, Sword Sect, Chaos Essence Sect, and the other patriarch sects were enraged. All right. Suzumo's gaze landed on the patriarch sects and the others as he said coldly, kill anyone who's indignant. With that said, Suzumo pulled the bowstring of the spirit-dispersing bow. Buzz! The bowstring trembled with a chilling killing intent. Sword Sect, Chaos Essence Sect, Heavenly Dipper Sect, and the other patriarch sects shut their mouths instantly. They represented the strongest factions in the cultivation world. But now they were completely suppressed by the aura of a single person. Araki Takashi had ascended. Chapter 1567. Initially, the experts of the primordial races watched coldly from the sidelines, waiting for the humans to fight internally, so that they could find an opportunity to kill Araki Takashi. However, to think that Araki Takashi would stun all the major sects and factions in the blink of an eye. Araki Takashi, don't you humans want to negotiate with the primordial 6 races? Young Master Guewu suddenly said coldly. Actually, the primordial 6 races had never thought of negotiating with the human race. They did not take the human race seriously at all. Dragons did not coexist with snakes. Why would a god negotiate with ants? However, at that moment young Master Guewu's words were sinister. He wanted to give the cultivators an illusion. The primordial 6 races wanted to negotiate. However, this was the result of Araki Takashi. In that case, the conflict between the human race would definitely reappear, and even intensify. True enough, some cultivators of Chaos Essence Sect and Sword Sect were tempted when young Master Gui Wu said that. Someone said, "It's good if we can negotiate properly and kill less." That's right. If the human race fights with the primordial 6 races, both sides will only suffer. Why bother? Araki Takashi is too rash and shows off his edge. There might not be a good outcome for him to lead the human race. Many cultivators whispered. The young masters of the primordial races were secretly delighted. Fufu. Su Zimo sneered. Do you guys really think that the primordial 6 races want to negotiate? Let me tell you, negotiations are never done through negotiation. You have to kill. That's right. Right then, a soft holler sounded from afar. A cultivator in scarlet robes strode over in huge strides. His body seemed to be burning with raging flames, and he had a menacing aura with a burning gaze. Grandmaster Extreme Fire. The cultivators of 100 Refinement Sect were overjoyed as they shouted. It was none other than Extreme Fire. Beside Extreme Fire was a black-robed young man with a cold expression. He was expressionless and moved nimbly, as though he could disappear into the darkness at any moment. Fifth, Monkey and the others were delighted when they saw the black-robed young man. Whoa whoa. The monkey pounded its chest and roared. Ling Hu was also grinning from ear to ear. His smile pulled at his wound, and he sucked in a cold breath. Even if it hurt, he was still extremely happy. Night Spirit. Xiaoning looked at the black-robed youth in disbelief, and exclaimed softly. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her vision gradually blurred. Sorry, I'm late. The black-robed young man came to Xiaoning's side, and said softly with an apologetic expression. It's fine. It's good that you're back. Ning cries and smiles at the same time. Ling Hu grumbled from the side. This OL5 really values his lover over his friends. I'm afraid he's forgotten all about us after all these years. Golden Lion, and the others also pretended to sigh. Night Spirit nodded to Xiaoning before walking towards Monkey and the others. A rare smile appeared on his cold face. You guys aren't dead yet, and you still have the strength to joke with me? Ha ha ha. Monkey laughed out loud. He reached out and thumped Night Spirit's chest. Our lives are tough. On the other side, Extreme Fire closed in and looked at the many cultivators present, saying in a deep voice, Zimo is right. The strong won't negotiate with the weak. If you want to negotiate, you have to become an expert first. A cultivator shouted, Araki Takashi, you're right. Those primordial races said earlier on that we humans are ants, and have no right to negotiate with them. No right? Su Zimo smiled gently. It's fine. Today, I, Araki Takashi, will lead all of you to kill for the human race. All right. Many cultivators felt their blood boil as they shouted, Kill for the right. Right then, 1,000 cultivators arrived from not far away. Among them were the Dharma Daojun, conjoint body mighty figures, and half-martial ancestor experts. The cultivators were dressed differently, and were of different races. They did not look like they were from the same sect, and did not have any obvious symbols. However, all of them carried a saber on their backs. It had been many years since so many saber cultivators, including mighty figures and half-martial ancestors of the saber, had appeared in Tianhuang mainland. The Sword Sect Patriarch narrowed his eyes and suddenly said, as though he had thought of something, Divine Phoenix Island. The Patriarch nodded one after another. Only Divine Phoenix Island could possess so many powerful saber cultivators. As one of the 2 islands, Divine Phoenix Island was naturally not to be underestimated. Penglai Island, one of the 2 islands, was already on the side of the primordial 6 races. Many cultivators did not know which side Divine Phoenix Island would stand on right now, or would they choose not to help either side like Sword Sect, Chaos Essence Sect, and the other immortal sects? Among the cultivators, Su Zimo was the only one who was calm. Divine Phoenix Island is here to help Araki Takashi. Before the Divine Phoenix Island cultivators arrived, the Island Lord of Divine Phoenix Island shouted. The Dragon Phoenix True Body was the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. Divine Phoenix Island would naturally stand on Su Zimo's side. The cultivators were invigorated. The addition of Divine Phoenix Island had undoubtedly increased their strength significantly. The primordial races frowned secretly. The current situation was somewhat out of their control. Even if they could win this battle, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. The primordial races would definitely suffer heavy losses. The young masters of the primordial races had not expected the human race to release such a powerful will after Araki Takeshi's descent. Of course, those cultivators were not much of a threat to the primordial races. The most troublesome one was Araki Takeshi. Young Master Gue Wu was still unwilling to give up and tried to sow discord between the various major sections. He smiled gently and said, "Araki Takeshi, Patriarch, do you really not want to talk to us?" The convention of the myriad races this time round was organized by Enigma Palace. "Do you really want this grand event to turn into a shura, where blood flows like rivers? It's fine if you want to negotiate," Suzimo nodded. "However, the prerequisite is that the primordial races have to be sincere enough." "No problem," young Master Gue Wu laughed. "Whatever sincerity Araki Takeshi wants, the primordial 6 races will definitely satisfy it with all our might. Treasures, beauties, cultivation techniques, secret skills, you can take your pick. I want your lives," Suzimo said word by word. The smile on young Master Gue Wu's face froze instantly. The expressions of the young masters of the primordial races darkened. The entire world fell silent because of Suzimo's words. The atmosphere in the surroundings became extremely heavy, and swords were drawn. Any unusual movement would lead to a violent storm. "In that case, Araki Takeshi, you don't want to talk?" Young Master Gue Wu said coldly. "Kill." 7th Prince could not hold it in any longer. With a holler, he attacked right away and dove down, descending instantly as though he had transformed into a burning spear. 10th Prince followed closely behind with his killing move. Young Master Gue Wu and Remnant I attacked as well. Still, Goddess Xiaoxiang did not let Demoness Ji off. While Demoness Ji was stunned, she suddenly attacked and was prepared to kill her. Chapter 1568. Extreme Fire, Night Spirit. The cultivators of Divine Phoenix Island, and many other cultivators, who could still fight, charged into the battlefield once more. But this time round, all the cultivators took the initiative to counterattack with a torrential aura. The experts of the primordial races showed signs of defeat when they were attacked by the cultivators. It was not that the experts of the primordial races could not defeat the cultivators. Just now, after Suzimo shot out a large wave of arrows, the experts of the primordial races became fearful. They did not dare to fight with all their might against the cultivators at all. Most of their attention was focused on Suzimo, and they were tense. They were afraid that Suzimo would pull the spirit eradication bow again and send down a rain of arrows. With that, the people of the primordial races could not unleash their combat strength at all. They were gradually pushed back by the continuous attacks of the cultivators. When they saw that, the cultivators fought even more valiantly, and their auras surged. After the baptism of Kunlun ruins, Extreme Fire's combat strength increased exponentially. He charged at the front and attacked consecutively, releasing an extremely terrifying killing power. Even if he was fighting against 10 alone, Extreme Fire could remain undefeated and even vaguely had the upper hand. Night Spirit's figure disappeared into the darkness like a ghost and flashed from time to time. Each time he attacked, a primordial race member would definitely die. Even the Rakshasa race with the fastest movement techniques could not escape the pursuit of Night Spirit. The Golden Lion sighed as he healed. After so many years, 5th Brother is still so ferocious. A look of confusion flashed through Linghu's eyes as he mumbled. "Strange. Why do I feel that 5th strength hasn't increased as much as I imagined?" "That's right." Qing Qing frowned as well. The 3 of them should have rushed over together. However, 5th Brother was a little late. It's normal that Extreme Fire's speed can't compare to 1st Brother's. 5th Brother's movement technique shouldn't be that far behind, right? Monkey said. He might be holding back. Look, 5th Brother hasn't even transformed into his true form. Forget it. There's no need to bother about that. Let's heal up quickly and fight alongside 5th Brother. All right. The brothers nodded in agreement and did not think too much about it. In midair, looking at the young masters of the primordial races charging over, Suzimo sneered in his heart. If it was a few decades ago, his primordial spirit would have become extremely weak after shooting hundreds of arrows with the spell-breaking bow. However, he had already become a half-martial ancestor, and the Fortune Lotus platform in his sea of consciousness was also infinitely close to rank 8. The black-haired primordial spirit nurtured the Creation Lotus platform, while the Creation Lotus platform constantly nourished the black-haired primordial spirit. Even though he had shot out hundreds of dermic power arrows, the power of Su Zimo's essence spirit was still extremely powerful and condensed. Su Zimo drew his lawbreaker bow again. This time round, he was prepared to kill all the young masters of the primordial races. Suddenly, not far away, young Master Guiwu smirked and a strange light flashed in his eyes. Deicide curse. A faint fluctuation of divine sense spread out, almost undetectable. Su Zimo's spiritual sense was powerful, and he immediately sensed the danger. However, the curse of the witch race was way too treacherous. Suddenly, an extremely evil power appeared out of thin air in Su Zimo's sea of consciousness. It rapidly condensed into a dark green storm that swept towards the black-haired essence spirit. If it was any other cultivator, it would be difficult for them to defend against such a strange essence spirit attack. However, Su Zimo's sea of consciousness was guarded by a treasure like the Creation Lotus platform. 63 Qinglian seeds spewed out and transformed into green streaks of light that collided with the dark green storm. Poof, poof, poof. Although the storm was evil and powerful, it could not defend against the sharpness of the Qinglian seeds. In the blink of an eye, it was riddled with holes by the 63 Qinglian seeds, and its power dissipating into Su Zimo's sea of consciousness before long. After that collision, the light of the 63 Qinglian seeds dimmed significantly as well. However, once they returned to the Creation Lotus platform, the Lotus platform would continue to nourish them, and the power of the Qinglian seeds would recover before long. You've got some tricks up your sleeves indeed. The Ghost Witch young master narrowed his gaze slightly. Over the years, countless human prodigies had died under his god-slaying curse. Now that he was up against Su Zimo, it was dispelled with ease. At the same time, the 7th and 10th princes had already closed in and extended their sharp claws, sealing off Su Zimo's escape routes. Su Zimo had just engaged in an essence spirit clash with the Ghost Witch young master. Although he was fine, he was slightly delayed. In his haste, he could only shoot out an arrow that collided with the visual technique released by the remnant eye with a deafening sound. It was already too late for him to draw his spirit-dispersing bow and shoot out a second arrow. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged, and he reacted extremely quickly. Using the spirit-dispersing bow as a saber and the bowstring as a blade, he swung it in reverse and slashed at the 10th prince. At the same time, he clenched his other hand into a fist and punched towards the 7th prince's golden crow feet. Exclamation point! A flash of blood appeared in midair. A gigantic and menacing golden crow foot was severed by the spirit-dispersing bow. The 10th prince shrieked tragically and transformed into a streak of golden light that fled. Even though the spirit-dispersing bow was an ancient unique treasure, its bowstring was extremely sharp as well. The fact that Su Zimo used the spirit-dispersing bow as a saber was a flash of inspiration. Although it seemed like a casual slash, it released the extremely murderous saber intent of the Shura. The combination of the Shura saber intent and the spirit-dispersing bow severed one of the golden crow feet of the 10th prince. Of course, that was not the 10th prince's third foot. The 10th prince fled into the distance, and his blood chi surged. In the blink of an eye, the severed golden crow feet grew back. Boom! At the same time, Su Zimo's fist collided with the golden crow feet of the 7th prince. The two of them clashed head-on. His blood chi surged, and was raised to the tsunami blood realm instantly. The 7th prince's expression changed greatly, as he felt a terrifying power surge into his body through his golden crow feet. Crack, crack, crack. The jarring sound of bones cracking could be heard from his golden crow feet. In a single head-on clash, his golden crowfoot's tendons and bones were shattered by a single punch. After being nourished by the primordial divine spring, Qinglian's true body was almost invincible among those of the same cultivation realm as her after her rebirth. Furthermore, this was the seventh prince who was the strongest in terms of combat strength. If it was the just now, Su Zimo's punch would have shattered more than just a single golden crow foot. Ah! The seventh prince shrieked with a vicious expression. Clang! Clang! The seventh prince did not retreat either. The sharp nails on his golden crow feet popped out and dug into Su Zimo's fist, wanting to cripple Su Zimo's palm. Umph! Su Zimo harumphed coldly, and his blood chi surged. The flesh on his palm expanded and instantly, jade-green veins appeared on the surface of his skin. Those green veins were like the veins on Qinglian's lotus leaves, and could be seen clearly. Bam! There was a crisp sound. The seventh prince shrieked tragically and retreated as well. Not only did the sharp nails on his golden crow feet fail to pierce Su Zimo's flesh, they snapped instead. His fingertips bled and the pain seeped into his bones. Chapter 1569. Right as the battle broke out, no one noticed that a blood vine race being had arrived beside Tung Luo's corpse and removed his storage bag. The blood vine race being took out a thumb-sized jade bottle carefully from Tung Luo's storage bag and turned to look at Su Zimo with a cold expression and crazed eyes. Right as Su Zimo attacked and injured the two golden crow princes, the blood vine race being wielded the jade bottle and charged towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo did not even look at him. After forcing the two princes back, he released an arrow in reverse. For ordinary cultivators, the blood vine race might be extremely threatening. However, for Su Zimo, a single arrow from the spirit eradication bow could kill them with ease. A cold light flashed and the dermic power arrow descended. However, the blood vine race had no intention of dodging when he charged over. He merely raised the jade bottle in his palm before the cold light descended. Araki Takeshi, prepare to be buried with the young master. The eyes of the blood vine tribe member were filled with a hint of madness as he let out a roar. Exclamation point. The dermic power arrow penetrated the blood vine race's chest and tore his body apart with its immense power. At the same time, the thumb-sized jade bottle shattered against the power as well. There was nothing else inside except for a drop of blood. However, that drop of blood contained an extremely terrifying power. Even the expressions of the young masters of the primordial races changed starkly with deep fear in their eyes. Bang! The drop of blood shattered and turned into a blood mist that enveloped Su Zimo. Even the spirit eradication bow was not spared. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. At that moment, he sensed an extremely evil power that wanted to invade Qinglian's true body and devour his life force. As for the spirit eradication bow, its light dimmed in the blood mist as well. Not only did the young masters of the primordial races possess torrential combat strength, they also had many trump cards in their hands. In fact, they even had life-saving methods left for them by their seniors. For example, the Emperor Heaven Divine Prince had a great divine power talisman. However, Tung Luo's storage bag contained the blood essence left for him by a Mahayana patriarch. That drop of blood essence was filthy and evil, and could kill any half-martial ancestor. Even Khanate mighty figures' dermic weapons would be crippled on the spot if they were tainted by that drop of blood essence. That was Tung Luo's trump card. Unfortunately, he was killed by a single arrow from Su Zimo. He did not have the chance to release it at all. But now, that drop of blood essence was released by another blood vine race's blood essence. The blood vine race member's body was destroyed by the arrow, and his primordial spirit was also contaminated by the blood mist from the explosion of this drop of blood essence, quickly withering. However, there was only excitement left in his eyes. Even if he deathed it out of it. The blood's blood. The bloods. Is the bloods. This will die would die. If this was dozens of years ago, that drop of blood essence would definitely be able to kill Su Zimo. However, after the battle in Kunlun ruins, Qinglian's true body was tempered by the calamity sword and baptized by the divine power storm. She was already infinitely close to grade 8. Even that drop of blood essence could not hurt the creation Qinglian, who was at the peak of grade 7. Disperse! Su Zimo hollered softly, and the blood chi in his body rumbled. Rays of light burst forth from his body and repelled the blood mist that landed on him instantly. Qinglian's true body was flawless and spotless. Even the blood essence of a Mahayana patriarch could not taint her. How could this be? How could this be? The blood vine race's essence spirit had already been devoured by the drop of blood essence, and his life force was exhausted. However, Qinglian's true body was still filled with boundless life force and was safe and sound. The essence spirit of the blood vine race could only dissipate into the world with endless indignance and resentment. The creation Qinglian is indeed a supreme treasure of the universe. The young master Gui Wu murmured softly. Suddenly the remnant I spoke. However, that drop of blood essence of the blood vine race's patriarch isn't completely useless. At the very least, it can cripple the Dharma breaking bow temporarily. Although the remnant I did not have eyes, it was as though it could see everything. The Dharma breaking bow in Su Zimo's hands was stained with the blood essence of the blood vine race's patriarch, and its light dimmed. Although it was not completely crippled, it was useless for the time being. Without that ancient unique treasure, let's see what else Araki Takashi has up his sleeves. The seventh prince said hatefully. In that short period of time, the shattered bones on the golden crow's feet had recovered. Yu Luocha frowned slightly and looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away. For some reason, her first reaction was not joy when she saw Su Zimo's Dharma breaking bow being crippled. Instead, she was worried. What's wrong with me? Yu Luocha snapped out of her daze immediately and was annoyed internally. This person before me is only the clone of that evil person. Why am I worried about him? With an indifferent expression, Su Zimo kept the Dharma breaking bow in his storage bag. Right then, a cry of pain sounded from midair not far away. Snap! In midair, goddess Xiaoxiang's body shone with divine light, and she was domineering with a torrential aura, forcing Demoness Ji to retreat with nowhere to run. A single punch landed on Demoness Ji's arm, and her entire arm was broken. Demoness, goddess Xiaoxiang said coldly. Who asked you to be so good-looking? You deserve to die. Goddess Xiaoxiang strode forward and extended her palm. Sharp fingernails extended from her fingers as she scratched towards Demoness Ji's face. If she were to hit, not only would Demoness Ji's face be destroyed, even her essence spirit would be ripped out by goddess Xiaoxiang. All of a sudden, the sound of wind and thunder echoed. Xiaoxiang, watch out. Immediately after, the warnings of young master Gui Wu, Remnant Eye and the others sounded. Goddess Xiaoxiang's heart skipped a beat. She merely felt her vision blur, and a person appeared in front of Demoness Ji. It was Araki Takashi, who was rampaging earlier on. The two of them were extremely close. The moment Su Zimo stood in front of Demoness Ji, goddess Xiaoxiang's palm had already descended. Araki Takashi, you must have a death wish. Divine Lady Xiaoxiang scoffed coldly, and had no intention of stopping. She clawed at Su Zimo's face, wanting to create a few bloody holes on his face. Goddess Xiaoxiang was confident of that. Given her blood chi and physique, no one could match her in melee combat. You're the one who has a death wish. Su Zimo hollered, and his eyes shone brightly as his blood chi surged. Against goddess Xiaoxiang's incoming palm, he did not dodge at all. Instead, he flipped his palm and slapped down on goddess Xiaoxiang's head. The aura released by that palm was way too strong. Goddess Xiaoxiang felt her chest tighten against the palm, and her blood chi was obstructed. She felt suffocated. Goddess Xiaoxiang's expression changed. Was he trying to exchange a life for a life with an internecine outcome? Goddess Xiaoxiang was confident that she could kill Su Zimo with a single palm strike. However, she was not confident that she could escape unscathed from Su Zimo's palm strike. My status is so noble. How can I exchange my life with this ant? In a flash, goddess Xiaoxiang made her choice and retracted her palm, wanting to block Su Zimo's palm strike before counterattacking. However, she would be completely defeated if she retreated. Chapter 1570. Goddess Xiaoxiang retracted her palm and raised her arms. The blood chi in her body surged and golden light filled the air as she blocked Su Zimo's palm. Boom! Su Zimo's palm descended and suppressed goddess Xiaoxiang's arms. Goddess Xiaoxiang's expression changed drastically. Her arms were numb from Su Zimo's palm strike. This palm strike had nearly knocked her into a daze. One had to know that even her Tao companion, the Emperor Heaven Divine Sun, could not beat her to such an extent in melee combat. However, Su Zimo did not stop in his tracks. He strode forward and charged towards Goddess Xiaoxiang like a galloping divine steed. A ferocious aura burst out from it. That collision was even more ferocious and invincible than the palm strike just now. Goddess Xiaoxiang shrieked and channeled her blood qi to the maximum. An incomparably powerful bloodline phenomenon appeared beneath her. An ancient and mysterious pyramid appeared, filled with divine light. Beneath the pyramid were the billions of living beings who were kneeling and praying. At the same time, the 7th and 10th princes chased after him again. This time, young Master Gui Wu waved his staff and dark green mist appeared in midair. It quickly condensed into a spear and pierced towards Su Zimo. Curse spear. Now that the spellbreaker bow was destroyed, young Master Gui Wu no longer had any reservations. Eye of the Hurricane. Remnant I also made a hand seal and condensed a spell. With a wave of his hands, a hurricane was formed. However, the true threat of this hurricane was not the powerful hurricane itself, but the eye of the hurricane in the middle of the hurricane. The eye of the hurricane was the peak of the power of that dermic art. Yu Luosha flapped her wings and charged towards Su Zimo as well. However, compared to the other young masters of the primordial races, her attack was clearly not too aggressive. Boom! Su Zimo did not dodge or avoid. His eyes were fixed on Goddess Xiaoxiang, as he channeled his blood qi to the limit, and his aura reached its peak. A gigantic Qinglian soared into the skies, as though it was about to break through the firmaments. The jade-green Qinglian was crystal clear, and its lotus leaves covered the skies. Under everyone's gazes, the flower bud at the top of Qinglian bloomed silently and emitted rays of light. Qinglian swayed. Ripples visible to the naked eye appeared in the void. They were like ripples on the surface of the water, spreading out in all directions. Rumble. Goddess Xiaoxiang's bloodline phenomenon was the first to bear the brunt. If this was a few decades ago, her bloodline phenomenon might have been able to hold on for a moment. But now, under the aura of a peak grade 7 creation green lotus, even the pyramid of the divine race could not withstand it. Cracks appeared on the body of the tower, and it collapsed in an instant. Countless stones and gravel rolled down. The billions of living beings below were scattered in all directions. The bloodline phenomenon dissipated as well. Goddess Xiaoxiang's face was pale. The collapse of her bloodline phenomenon naturally affected her flesh and blood. Even though she suppressed it forcefully, blood still flowed from the corner of her lips. In midair, the cursed spear that howled over was shattered by the ripples in the void before it could reach the creation Qinglian. The hurricane did not fight against the ripples in midair for long before it dissipated. The eye of the hurricane dissipated as well. Retreat! The 7th Crown Prince and the 10th Crown Prince had just arrived when they saw a series of ripples rippling towards them. 7th Crown Prince was the fastest to react. Sensing the terrifying power contained within the ripples, he transformed into a streak of golden light and retreated at an even faster speed. As for 10th Crown Prince, he was slightly slower and was slightly affected by the ripples. One of his golden wings was snapped by the ripples. Ah! 10th Crown Prince shrieked and retreated hurriedly. Naturally, Yu Luosha would not charge forward foolishly and had retreated long ago. Su Zimo's bloodline phenomenon was released and defended against the attacks of the young masters of the primordial races. Furthermore, there was still strength left. Boom! Accompanied by the might of his bloodline phenomenon, Su Zimo charged towards Goddess Xiaoxiang. The storage ring on Goddess Xiaoxiang's finger flashed, and a huge golden shield appeared. It stopped in midair and blocked in front of her. The killing intent in Su Zimo's eyes intensified when he saw the gigantic golden shield. Well, Su Zimo said coldly. Since you already have this gigantic golden shield, there's even more reason for me to not let you live. Su Zimo had interacted with Protoss back in the Jin Dan realm. However, those Jin Dan realm Protoss used storage bags, and were no different from the cultivators of Tianhuang mainland. In the primordial era, most of the Protoss were killed by the gods in the God-slaying canyon. However, a portion of them were left behind in Tianhuang mainland. Over the years, that portion of Protoss recuperated and developed. However, weapons and treasures such as the storage rings and gigantic golden shields of the Protoss were made from materials unique to the mainland of gods and could not be forged in Tianhuang mainland. Therefore, the storage rings and gigantic golden shields were still those brought over from the primordial era and were rare. In other words, not all members of the god clan would possess a storage ring. Divine race members who could wear storage rings were bound to be top powerhouses among the divine race. But now, not only did goddess Xiaoxiang have a storage ring, she even had a gigantic golden shield. This meant that she must know the background of the Protoss. Those thoughts flashed through his mind. Boom! Even when he saw the gigantic golden shield, Su Zimo had no intention of stopping and collided with it with a deafening bang. Goddess Xiaoxiang shuddered and spat out a mouthful of blood. A sharp pain came from her arms, and she could not even hold onto the gigantic golden shield. Su Zimo sent her flying with the help of his bloodline phenomenon. Qinglian's phenomenon dissipated as a result. Goddess Xiaoxiang's expression dimmed as she stumbled backwards. However, Su Zimo had no intention of letting her off. He strode forward and reached out, grabbing Goddess Xiaoxiang's shoulders and bending his knees. This time, he collided heavily with Goddess Xiaoxiang's chest. Crack! Goddess Xiaoxiang's sternum shattered. At the same time, Su Zimo's fingernails popped out like swords and pierced through the flesh of Goddess Xiaoxiang's shoulders, tearing outwards. Under the intertwining of the two forces, Goddess Xiaoxiang's arms were torn off by Su Zimo. Ah! Goddess Xiaoxiang shrieked, and almost fainted from the pain. The living beings of the myriad races were shocked. At that moment, Goddess Xiaoxiang no longer had the high and mighty appearance of a goddess. She was miserable and struggled on the verge of death, no different from the cultivators on the battlefield. Araki Takashi attacked and pulled Goddess Xiaoxiang down from the altar. These two arms are to avenge her. Su Zimo tossed Goddess Xiaoxiang's arms to the ground casually and said with a murderous aura, "Since you severed one of her arms, I'll cripple both of yours." Although Su Zimo did not say who she was, all the living beings present knew that she was the pure maiden of the fiend sex. Demoness Ji stood not far behind Su Zimo and looked at the man who had just saved her. Her beautiful eyes rippled with emotions that others could not understand. However, before long, a hint of loneliness flashed through her face, and she sighed gently. Chapter 1571. Araki Takashi, don't be too smug. Goddess Xiaoxiang channeled her blood essence to reform her flesh and blood to regrow her arms. At the same time she said hatefully, "My Dao partner Huang Tian will be here soon. Huang Tian will make you pay 100 times for what you did to me. Is that so?" Su Zimo sneered. "Then I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. Your Huang Tian is already dead. I can see that you two are deeply in love, so I'll fulfill your wish and send you on your way to reunite with him." Tearing off Goddess Xiaoxiang's arms was just to avenge Demoness Ji. What Su Zimo wanted was Goddess Xiaoxiang's life. "What did you say?" Goddess Xiaoxiang's body trembled as her blood essence fluctuated. Her arms that had yet to reform almost collapsed. "Impossible!" Goddess Xiaoxiang screamed and glared at Su Zimo. "Huang Tian can't be dead. No one of the same cultivation level can suppress him." Goddess Xiaoxiang suddenly thought of something. Huang Tian Shenxi still had a great divine power talisman on him. She said in a deep voice, "Even a Mahayana patriarch can't kill Huang Tian. Moreover, Huang Tian is a Shenxi. I don't believe that anyone in the world would be so bold as to kill a Shenxi." Goddess Xiaoxiang condensed her arms and calmed down in the blink of an eye. She sneered. "Araki Takashi, you want to make up such a big lie to attack my Dao heart? Dream on. In my opinion, your words are full of loopholes." The more Goddess Xiaoxiang thought about it, the more she felt that her speculation was right. Firstly, it was a secret that the Huang Tian Shenxi went to the barbarian race. The other races didn't know about it. Secondly, the Huang Tian Shenxi was very powerful. He had a great divine power talisman, and 3 ancestral gods protecting him. Who could kill him? The barbarian race? Lastly, the barbarian race did have the ability to do so. However, the barbarian race had no reason or need to do so. Even if they didn't join forces with the Protoss, the barbarian race wouldn't kill the Huangtian Shensi and become enemies with the Protoss. Thinking of this, Goddess Xiaoxiang was even more certain of her speculation. Su Zimo looked at the confident Goddess Xiaoxiang and did not want to argue with her. He said indifferently, "You think too much. Why should I attack your Dao heart? I want your life." Before he finished speaking, Su Zimo attacked again. Whoosh! Su Zimo's figure flickered as he charged towards Goddess Xiaoxiang. His speed was extremely fast, and he arrived in front of her in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, Goddess Xiaoxiang's eyes were covered in a layer of golden light, and two beams of godly light shot out. God's eye technique. The distance between the two of them was too close. Coupled with the instantaneous use of his ocular technique, he almost instantly appeared in front of Su Zimo. However, the strange thing was that a beam of green light flew out from Su Zimo's glabella when Goddess Xiaoxiang unleashed her God's eye technique. The lotus platform of creation. The creation lotus platform spun and flew out of the sea of consciousness, colliding with the two divine lights. Boom! The divine lights shattered and dissipated into nothingness. No matter how strong the God's eye was, it could not penetrate the creation lotus platform. In the eyes of most living beings of the 10,000 races, this short exchange did not seem like anything special. It was as though it was just an ordinary clash. However, the young masters of the primordial races were secretly speechless with shock in their eyes. That was because the young masters of the primordial races could clearly see the game that happened during this short exchange. If Goddess Xiaoxiang had not released her ocular technique, Araki Takashi would have summoned the creation Qinglian. If that was the case, it would have been too late. The true situation was that Araki Takashi seemed to have predicted Goddess Xiaoxiang's counterattack and summoned the creation Qinglian to block in front of him. Thereafter, he released his God's eye and collided with the creation Qinglian. That was the reason why just now happened. Araki Takashi summoned the creation lotus platform and blocked Goddess Xiaoxiang's God's eye almost perfectly. This ability to predict was a talent and spirit perception that might not be honed even after experiencing countless life and death battles. Furthermore, this required immense courage and guts. That was because if his prediction was wrong, there was a high chance that Araki Takashi would be severely injured and fall into a disadvantage. But now, Araki Takashi's prediction was accurate, and he guessed that Goddess Xiaoxiang might use her God's eye technique to neutralize it. Instantly, Goddess Xiaoxiang lost the initiative. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly as he suddenly opened his mouth and chanted 6 Sanskrit words. Buzz, Ma, and I, Pa, Me, Ha. At the same time, Su Zimo's hands changed rapidly and conjured 6 damning dermic seals that suppressed Goddess Xiaoxiang. Swoosh! Su Zimo's divine consciousness moved, and the creation Qinglian also smashed towards Goddess Xiaoxiang's head at the same time. At that moment, Su Zimo unleashed an extremely terrifying attack that almost drowned Goddess Xiaoxiang's body. Goddess Xiaoxiang's face turned pale. Under such an attack, not only was her blood qi weak, but her combat strength was also greatly reduced. Even if she was in peak condition, she might not be able to escape unscathed. Her ears were buzzing from the 6 damning dermic seals. She barely managed to draw out a giant golden sword and blocked the creation lotus platform. But her power had dissipated, and she could no longer condense it. Moreover, there were still 6 damning dermic seals suppressing her. Goddess Xiaoxiang felt suffocated. She didn't have time to think. When she took out the giant golden sword from her storage ring, she also took out a talisman. That was a protective talisman that her mother had left for her. As long as it was torn apart, it could even block the full-powered attack of an early-stage Mahayana realm patriarch. Goddess Xiaoxiang tore the talisman into pieces without hesitation. Rays of dazzling golden light shot out from her palms and quickly formed a barrier around her body. The moment the barrier was formed, the lotus platform of creation came crashing down. 6 damning dermic seals descended at the same time. Boom! A deafening sound rang out. Under everyone's gaze, Goddess Xiaoxiang's body was sent flying by the huge force. She rolled for more than 100 feet before landing heavily on the ground. Cough cough. Goddess Xiaoxiang coughed lightly and couldn't help but laugh. Although she had lost miserably, she had survived because of the light barrier. Chapter 1572. The remaining 7th Prince, 10th Prince, Young Master Guiwu and Remnant. I felt chills run down their spines. They felt chills run down their spines when they were targeted by Araki Takashi. Initially, they were filled with confidence that any one of them could kill Araki Takashi. But now that Teng Luo and the 9th Prince were dead and Goddess Xiaoxiang was defeated miserably, the few of them were not confident even if they joined forces. On the other side, the Yen Beichen, Monkey and the others rested for a moment before charging back into the battlefield. They caused an extremely tragic impact on the people of the primordial 6 races and caused immense casualties. If they could not determine a victor against Araki Takashi, they would not have the face to return to see the patriarch of the primordial races today. The gazes of young Master Guiwu and 7th Prince landed on the island master of Penglai Island, the sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect, and the others. Although they did not say anything, there was a deep look in their eyes. Moreover, there was a ripple of divine sense voice transmission in the air. Remnant I turned slightly and faced a sect as well. However, Remnant I did not have eyes and his action did not attract Su Zimo's attention. Su Zimo's expression was cold as he sneered and glared at young Master Guiwu who was not far away, striding over. You want to kill me? Young Master Guiwu narrowed his eyes. Let's fight in terms of essence spirits then. Skeleton curse. Young Master Guiwu channeled his essence spirit and condensed his massive spirit consciousness, releasing an essence spirit secret skill instantly. At the same time, 7th Prince, 10th Prince, and even Remnant, I released their essence spirit secret skills one after another when they saw that. The release of essence spirit secret skills was enough to force the young masters of the primordial races into a corner. The first to descend was young Master Guiwu's skeleton curse. The moment young Master Guiwu released his essence spirit secret skill, a dark green skull with a torrential evil aura appeared in Su Zimo's consciousness out of thin air. Crack! Crack! As though it was alive, the skull grinned sinisterly and glared at the black-haired essence spirit. It gritted its teeth continuously and let out a series of noises. Previously, the spirit-slaying curse released by young Master Guiwu merely formed a storm. But this time, the essence soul mystic technique had already condensed a skull with spirituality. Su Zimo's expression was ice-cold. What he was facing wasn't just the threat of this skull. Whoosh! Whoosh! In midair, the essence soul mystic techniques released by the 2 golden crow princes were 2 golden feathers. These 2 golden feathers were condensed from a tremendous amount of divine sense. They burned with blazing flames as they pierced toward Su Zimo. On the other side, the Remnant I also released an essence soul mystic technique. His essence spirit secret skills were even more terrifying. It was a bloody eyeball. 4 essence spirit secret skills descended at the same time and charged toward Su Zimo. Yu Luocha frowned slightly and hesitated for a moment. In the end, she did not release her essence spirit mystic skill. Yu Luocha lamented internally. Those 4 essence spirit secret skills are enough to kill you. There's no need for me at all. Thinking of this, Yu Luocha felt a lot more at ease. She did not know that Wu Dao's true body had already left a martial spirit imprint on her essence spirit. Just now, if she were to release an essence soul mystic technique against Qinglian's true body, the martial spirit imprint would sense it and burn. Before her essence soul mystic technique could be condensed, her essence spirit would be burned to ashes first. On the battlefield, Su Zimo was surrounded by 4 essence soul mystic skills. His eyes were calm, and his mind was extremely calm. The black-haired essence spirit conjured an essence soul mystic skill, right away, and lightning arcs coiled around its body in a bedazzling manner. Su Zimo touched his glabella gently, and withdrew a long whip, filled with lightning from his consciousness. The secret skill of the Thunder Emperor, Spirit Vanquishing Whip. Piak! Su Zimo swung the Spirit Vanquishing Whip, and whipped it towards the essence soul mystic skills of the 2 golden crow princes. The collision of essence soul mystic skills was silent. However, the power of thunder and golden flames contained within the mystic skills collided repeatedly with a series of crackling sounds. The black-haired essence spirit that was nurtured by Qinglian after cultivating to the half-martial ancestor realm and comprehending the profundities of the immortal Buddhist and fiend Taoist, was way too condensed. Coupled with the secret skill of the Thunder Emperor, Su Zimo managed to take down the two burning golden feathers single-handedly. Of course, his spirit-vanquishing whip dissipated as a result, and could not condense into form. The moment the black-haired essence spirit condensed the spirit-vanquishing whip, the creation lotus platform of the black-haired essence spirit in Su Zimo's consciousness shone with a green glow. These green rays of light quickly condensed in his sea of consciousness, forming a sharp green lotus sword that contained an extreme killing intent. There was no need for Su Zimo to control it. The moment the Qinglian sword sensed the evil power that intruded into his consciousness, it reacted immediately. Swash! The Qinglian sword slashed down viciously at the dark green skull. The skull possessed a sentience, and seemed to be able to sense the terror of the Qinglian sword, and wanted to dodge. However, its speed was far inferior to the Qinglian sword. Clang! The green lotus sword descended in an instant, slashing down on the skull. Groar! The skull let out a tragic cry, as though an evil fiend resided within, and was severely injured. Clang! 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 The azure lotus sword emitted beams of multicolored light. These multicolored lights contained an extremely sharp sword energy that constantly slashed at the skulls. In the blink of an eye, the skull was riddled with holes. Boom! It didn't take long for the skull to dissipate. As for the Qinglian sword, it was tainted with dark green evil power as well. Its light dimmed significantly, and it could not condense into form as it fell. The creation lotus platform retracted the Qinglian seeds and continued to nourish it. Before the battle in his consciousness subsided, Su Zimo had already turned around to face the remnant eye. In his consciousness, the Qinglian sword fought against the skull. As for the black-haired essence spirit, it hovered in midair in a lotus position with its palms pressed together. It had a dignified expression and chanted Sanskrit after Sanskrit. In fact, the phantom of a gigantic Buddha appeared behind the black-haired essence spirit, looking down on the world with a mysterious halo behind its head. The black-haired essence spirit and the gigantic Buddha chanted ancient sutras at the same time. Their auras seemed to have fused as one, and the Sanskrit chants reverberated through every corner of his consciousness in a deafening manner. The Rilai Dharmic Seal. It was an essence spirit secret skill in the Great Day Rilai Sutra that was extremely powerful. Su Zimo had once relied on that essence spirit secret skill to kill strong enemies and avert danger many times. As the Sanskrit chants were chanted, a golden symbol flew out from Su Zimo's glabella, emitting a Buddhist light that was sacred and dignified. The ancient symbol descended with a resplendent golden light, as though it could suppress everything. The remnant eye's essence spirit secret skill was extremely evil. However, the Rilai Dharmic Seal countered such evil arts the best. Against the suppression of the Rilai Dharmic Seal, the bloodied eyeball turned into nothingness and dissipated into the world. As for the Rilai Dharmic Seal, it did not dissipate and suppress the remnant eye slowly. I fulfilled my promise with the 5th update today. I've been rather hard-working with my updates for the past few days. All I did was roar and ask for recommendation votes, monthly votes, rewards and whatnot. I did what I could and did not force anything. The convention of the myriad races had just begun, and it would be even more exciting later on. End of chapter. Chapter 1573. Su Zimo released several trump cards consecutively and defended against the encirclement of the young masters of the primordial 4 races. Furthermore, after the Rilai Dharmic Seal suppressed the essence spirit secret skill of the Heavenly Eye race, it gathered an extremely terrifying power and flew towards the remnant eye. In Su Zimo's sea of consciousness, after the green lotus sword shattered the dark green skull, young Master Gue Wu let out a muffled groan and his body swayed. Su Zimo's body swayed and lightning flashed as he vanished from the spot. By the time he appeared again, he was already before young Master Gue Wu. Kill! Suddenly, Su Zimo shouted and released the secret skill Thunderclap Kill. The two of them were extremely close, and as a witch, young Master Gui Wu's physique and bloodline were ordinary. Thunderclap Kill dealt a huge blow to him. Exclamation point. Instantly, blood spewed out of young Master Gui Wu's ears, nostrils and mouth. His dark green eyes exploded from Su Zimo's shout, and he was blinded on the spot, his vision turning dark. This was no longer bleeding from his 7 orifices. His 7 orifices were shattered. Young Master Gui Wu shuddered and his mind buzzed. His 5 senses were completely crippled by the shock of Thunderclap Kill. An injury as such was not fatal for a half-martial ancestor expert. However, young Master Gui Wu knew that his life was on the line. Illusory curse. Without hesitation, young Master Gui Wu channeled his essence spirit and released the life-saving secret skill of the witch race. Suddenly, a dark green glow shone on young Master Gui Wu's body, and his body turned illusory, as though he was in another dimension. He was unfathomable, boundless and blurry. After Su Zimo released Thunderclap Kill, he slapped down. However, to think that the palm strike passed through young Master Gui Wu's blurry figure and landed in thin air. However, young Master Gui Wu was safe and sound. Su Zimo had seen this illusory curse before. Back then, an elder of the witch race released the secret curse. However, Night Spirit saw through it with a single glance and killed him. Su Zimo was not surprised. His gaze focused and his left eye shone with a strange black light, as though a pitch-black stone had appeared. Nether fluorescent stone. Su Zimo's left eye emitted a mysterious nether light. Initially, young Master Gui Wu's figure was untraceable. However, under the illumination of the gloomy light, there was nowhere to hide. Right now, Su Zimo's eye was no different from Night Spirit's eye. Bang! Su Zimo's palm descended once more and struck the top of young Master Gui Wu's head. Blood splattered. Right, Zimo. Young Master Gui Wu was young Master Gui Wu's. Young Master Gui Wu's. Young Master Gui Wu's. SLT young Master Gui Wu. This Araki Takashi is way too ruthless. He has another young master of the primordial race in his hands. That's right. Back in the Dao inheritance ground, I could tell. All the titular disciples wanted to join forces to kill him, but he killed all of them. Something's not right. Right then, a humanoid living being suddenly said, "Young Master Gui Wu isn't dead." The secret skill of the witch race is truly mysterious. He's not dead even now. Under the gaze of many cultivators, a figure in green robes could be seen staggering out of the blood mist. By the looks of it, it was young Master Gui Wu. The living beings of the myriad races were shocked. However, Su Zimo merely frowned slightly and understood before long. Back then, the young master of the witch race who died at Misty Peak cultivated a secret skill similar to a substitute puppet. At the most critical moment, he could die in his place once. That was equivalent to having an additional life. However, that was no threat to Su Zimo at all. At most, he would kill young Master Gui Wu again. In a flash, Su Zimo caught up to young Master Gui Wu in a few steps. His gaze intensified, and he was prepared to release a killing move. "Araki Takashi, don't force me." Knowing that he could not escape, young Master Gui Wu turned around and screamed at Su Zimo with a tragic expression. At the same time, an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation spread from his body. Su Zimo was familiar with that fluctuation. Back in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, Wuxia had self-destructed his essence spirit to release a curse that wanted to kill him completely. The life-severing curse. In reality, given Su Zimo's current creation Lotus platform, he was no longer afraid of the life-severing curse. However, Qinglian's sword had just destroyed the skull curse. Now that it was condensed again to fight against the life-severing curse, even if it could be dispelled, the black-haired essence spirit might be affected. The 7th and 10th princes of the Golden Crow race had already closed in. On the other side, the heavenly eye on Remnant Eye's glabella opened completely and released a terrifying visual technique with an extremely terrifying aura. There were many visual techniques in the heavenly eye race. Ranked first and the strongest was Death's Eye. Death's Eye was extremely difficult to cultivate. Any moment of carelessness would cause one's heavenly eye to be blinded. The heavenly eye of the heavenly eye race was condensed with their cultivation. Once it was damaged, it was extremely difficult to heal, and it was equivalent to severing their future cultivation path. In serious cases, they might even be refined to death. That was one of the reasons why the visual technique was called Death's Eye. Throughout history, there were many heavenly eye race beings who died because they cultivated Death's Eye. Of course, the biggest reason was that the visual technique was terrifying. Not only did it contain the power of visual techniques, it also contained the power of essence spirit secret skills. Once Death's Eye was opened, nobody could defend against it. It was truly killing with one's eyes open. Death's Eye was extremely difficult to cultivate, and was extremely dangerous. Without a shocking will, extraordinary guts, a strong temperament, extraordinary talent and even heaven-defying luck, it was difficult to cultivate it successfully. Throughout history, there were very few heavenly eye race beings who could cultivate Death's Eye. Remnant Eye was one of them. The last person of the heavenly eye race who managed to cultivate Death's Eye could be traced back to 40,000 years ago. On the battlefield, the moment Death's Eye opened, Su Zimo felt his scalp tingle, and a sense of danger flashed through his mind. This was the first time he felt such intense danger since the start of the battle. Su Zimo paused in his tracks and gave up on chasing after young Master Guiwu. He turned around suddenly and looked in the direction of Remnant Eye. Death's Eye opened and Remnant Eye's figure seemed to have vanished. In the darkness, there was only a single heavenly eye left that hovered in midair. The protruding eyeball was dead silent without any hint of life, and was filled with a shuddering aura of death. A gray beam of light burst forth from Death's Eye. Wherever it passed, it took away all life and collided with the Ruli-dermic seal in midair. The Ruli-dermic seal was sacred and dignified, emitting a blinding golden light. However, after the gray beam of light descended, the golden light of the Ruli-dermic seal was suppressed instantly and dimmed in the blink of an eye. The beam of death penetrated the Ruli-dermic seal silently and enveloped Su Zimo. Chapter 1574. An Opportunity. The eyes of the two princes of the Golden Crow race lit up. As members of the primordial races, they knew the Eye of Death too well. Among the same cultivation realm, no paragon or monster incarnate could escape unscathed from the Eye of Death. The 7th and 10th princes joined forces, and their movement techniques became even faster as they charged towards Su Zimo with all their might. "Why aren't you guys attacking?" Young Master Guiwu noticed that as well and hollered. A vicious glint flashed through the eyes of the sect masters of Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect, who were initially tempted. Suddenly, they stood up and conjured hand seals, releasing two powerful dermic arts. Heavenly Solitary, Earth Split. The two sect masters hollered. Boundless dermic powers gathered in front of the two of them, and two gigantic and terrifying stars appeared. They were corporeal, and were no different from the stars in the firmaments. When the two stars descended, living beings with weaker cultivation let out tragic cries. The Heavenly Solitary Star was one of the 36 Heavenly Dipper stars. The Earth Split was one of the 72 Malevolent Earth stars. The two sect masters used supreme secret skills to condense the two stars with dermic powers. The surface of the Heavenly Solitary Star was filled with rumbling Heavenly Dipper winds. The surface of the Malevolent Earth Star burned with raging Malevolent Earth flames. Go! The two sect masters were murderous as they hollered and shot the two dermic arts towards Su Zimo's figure. The two gigantic stars smashed towards Su Zimo with a shocking aura. Compared to the two gigantic stars, Su Zimo's figure was as insignificant as a speck of dust that could be crushed into dust with ease. "How dare you!" The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace was enraged when he saw that. However, he could not free himself from the fight with the experts of the primordial 6 races. The attacks of the two sect masters were sudden, and it was already too late for him to stop them by the time he realized it. Changes happened instantly on the battlefield. In the blink of an eye, Araki Takashi was surrounded from all sides, and was in extreme danger. How shameless! To think that Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect would attack Araki Takashi from behind at this moment. Many cultivators were enraged when they saw this. "You're courting death." Su Zimo could feel the waves of dermic powers coming from behind him. His expression was cold as he spoke each word slowly. He did not look back. This was because the greatest threat to him was the eye of death in front of him. Yu Luocha frowned slightly as she watched this scene. A wave of worry involuntarily rose in her heart. She knew very well that once the eye of death opened, Su Zimo would definitely be heavily injured. Furthermore, the two princes of the Golden Crow tribe were about to arrive. The dermic arts of the two sect masters of the Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect had already descended. Once young Master Gui Wu regained his senses, he would also make a move. There was no way Su Zimo could defend against such an attack. As if possessed, she subconsciously took half a step forward. She did not want to attack Su Zimo. Instead, she wanted to stop the two princes of the Golden Crow tribe and help Su Zimo resolve the danger before him as much as possible. Yu Luocha clearly knew that the green-robed cultivator before her was merely a clone of the evil man. However, for some reason, she felt as though she was possessed. Not only did she not want to hurt the evil man, she did not even want to hurt his clone. In fact, in the depths of her heart, she wanted to help the evil man. Yu Luocha, what are you doing? At this moment a cold voice sounded. Yu Luocha glanced sideways and caught sight of goddess Xiaoxiang, who was recuperating not far away. She narrowed her eyes and glared at Yu Luocha meaningfully. Yu Luocha panicked, as though all the secrets in the depths of her heart had been seen through by goddess Xiaoxiang. However, Yu Luocha composed herself before long and replied indifferently, "Nothing much. I just wanted to help." "Oh." Goddess Xiaoxiang smirked and refused to give up, asking, "Do you want to deal with Araki Takashi or help Araki Takashi? What are you talking about? I don't understand." Yu Luocha replied without a change in expression. "Fufu," Goddess Xiaoxiang sneered. "Yu Luocha, just now I've noticed something unusual about you. We were fighting against Araki Takashi, but you didn't do anything. After today's matter is over, you must give us an explanation. What's there to explain?" As the young master of a primordial race, Yu Luocha was not afraid of goddess Xiaoxiang at all. She sneered as well. "You guys are strong. I thought that it would be enough for you guys to attack. Who would have thought that you guys would be beaten up so badly by Araki Takashi? How embarrassing." "You!" Goddess Xiaoxiang was furious. Although Yu Luocha's words were tough, she sighed internally. Now that she was targeted by goddess Xiaoxiang, there was no way she would help Su Zimo. While Yu Luocha and goddess Xiaoxiang were arguing, both sides had already exchanged blows on the battlefield. Su Zimo looked at the gray beam of light, and his eyes turned pitch black rapidly. It was like an endless abyss that one could not see the bottom of. Nether fluorescent pupil. After cultivating in Kunlun ruins for all these years, Su Zimo had already cultivated his nether fluorescent pupil to greater mastery. Su Zimo's left eye also shot out a pitch-black beam of light. The temperature of the world plummeted, and a sinister wind blew. Remnant Eye tilted his head, and his expression changed slightly. Although he was blind, his perception of the outside world far surpassed that of others. In his senses, an extremely terrifying force had actually burst forth in front of him. And it wasn't even weaker than his Azura's eye. What was even more terrifying was that the power fluctuation seemed to have awakened a fear that had long been sealed in the depths of Remnant Eye's bloodline. Boom! The black beam collided with the gray beam. The void at the point of collision caved in deeply, and the surrounding dermic powers froze instantly, covered in a layer of frost. The two powers devoured and clashed continuously without giving in to each other. After a brief pause, the two types of power completely collapsed as they clashed against each other. Drawl when they saw that, the living beings of the myriad races and the young masters of the primordial races were shocked. Araki Takashi's visual technique was actually able to fight to a draw against the Eye of Death of the Heavenly Eye race. The darkness in Su Zimo's eyes gradually receded. However, Remnant Eye did not move. All of a sudden, Remnant Eye opened his mouth and let out a tragic scream. A stream of blood flowed out from his heavenly eye in a shocking manner. It was not a draw. Remnant Eye's heavenly eye was injured. Everyone was shocked. Many cultivators cheered excitedly at the sight of this. "It's nether fluorescent pupil. It's nether fluorescent pupil." Remnant Eye clutched the heavenly eye on his glabella and roared hysterically at Su Zimo, with a pair of pitch-black holes on his face. Impossible. That's impossible. How do you know that visual technique? Remnant I finally recalled what the power fluctuation that terrified him was. The young masters of the primordial races were shocked. Nether fluorescent pupil. That was the visual technique of a taboo god of the primordial era. Who would have thought that it would reappear in the body of a human today? Chapter 1575. At the same time as he released his nether fluorescent eye, Su Zimo closed 2 fingers on his left hand and conjured a sword art, slashing in the direction of the 2 stars, Heavenly Solitary and Earth Pi. Chi. 2 streaks of sword chi burst forth in a bedazzling manner and slashed the 2 stars instantly. Heaven-slaying sword chi. Boom. There was a deafening sound. The 2 stars paused in midair immediately. After a brief pause, a smooth cut appeared on the surface of the 2 stars, right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races. Rumble. Boom. Immediately after, the 2 stars split into 2 neatly from the middle by the heaven-slaying sword chi, and fell with their dermic powers dissipating. At the same time, the 2 golden crow princes arrived. Su Zimo clenched his empty right hand into a fist, and his blood chi surged. Without turning back, he relied on his powerful spirit perception, and threw 2 punches behind him. Bang! Bang! The 2 punches collided with the 3rd legs of the 2 golden crow princes, and were defeated. Crack! Crack! Immediately after, the sound of bones cracking could be heard. The 10th prince shrieked tragically and transformed into a streak of golden light that retreated backwards. The 3rd leg of the golden crow race, that was the toughest and strongest in terms of killing power, was broken by a single punch from Su Zimo. The most frightening thing was that that punch was not Su Zimo's full strength. Instead, it was a counterattack that he released after fighting against Death's Eye and the 2 sect masters of the human race. Even so, the 10th prince could not withstand it. Young Master Gui Wu snapped out of his stupor and wanted to attack. However, he was shocked to discover that Su Zimo suppressed all the attacks despite fighting against 5 people alone. His heart skipped a beat, and the dermic art that he had just conjured dissipated silently. The 7th prince's blood chi was strong, and he was the strongest among the 10 golden crows. Although he could withstand Su Zimo's punch, his golden crow lineage was completely knocked unconscious. The 7th prince was shocked, and did not dare to stay on the spot. He retreated hurriedly and distanced himself from Su Zimo, wanting to avoid Su Zimo's counterattack. However, this time round, Su Zimo did not chase after them. Su Zimo turned around with a cold expression and glared at the 2 sect masters of Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect, saying coldly, "I can ignore the fact that you guys are cowardly against the primordial races. However, I will not tolerate you guys hurting others behind their backs. Do you think the 2 of you are worthy of being the patriarch of the immortal and fiend sects? The way I see it, the 2 of you are living worse than dogs." Su Zimo was truly enraged. He had deep grudges with super sects like Hunyuan sect, Sword sect and Zephyr Thunder Palace. Although Su Zimo's sect, he's Su Zimo's sex Su Zimo's sex Su Zimo's patriarch times Su Zent sex is Su of sex Su of heavens. Of Su he wanted to kill the primordial race. However, before he killed the primordial races, he had to kill the 2 sect masters first. Su Zimo's gaze was like lightning as he strode towards the 2 sect masters of Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect. In the blink of an eye, he arrived before them. The 2 sect masters were stunned by Su Zimo's aura and froze on the spot. They did not turn to escape, as though they were scared out of their wits. As for the cultivators behind the 2 sect masters, they reacted one after another and fled in all directions with flustered expressions, afraid that they would be implicated. Even if they were accidentally implicated in a battle of this level, it was easy for them to die. "Hand over your lives," Su Zimo hollered and his blood chi surged. Like a heavenly god, he reached out with his gigantic palm and descended from the skies. The power of that palm was vast and enveloped the 2 sect masters completely. although Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect had body-tempering dermic formulations. Su Zimo was confident that his furious palm strike was enough to kill the two sect masters. The Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect masters were flustered as they summoned their destiny dermic weapons in a fluster, wanting to defend against Su Zimo's palm strike. However, before the gigantic palm could suppress them completely, the terrifying power had already caused the two sect masters to feel suffocated. Both of their faces were flushed red, and their eyes were bloodshot. Against that terrifying pressure, blood even seeped out from the surface of their bodies. When the living beings of the 10,000 races saw that, everyone thought that the two sect masters were already dead. However, right then, a strange glint flashed through the depths of the two sect masters' eyes. The next moment, Su Zimo felt a sense of danger. He sensed a bone-chilling killing intent. This sense of danger was several times stronger than the eye of death. In fact, it was even more than 10 times stronger. This should not be the power of a half-martial ancestor. There was only a single possibility for him to sense such an intense threat. A Mahayana patriarch had attacked. Su Zimo was alarmed. He was not surprised that there was a Mahayana patriarch here. Although on the surface, the convention of the 10,000 races of Enigma Palace was a negotiation between half-martial ancestor experts and conjoint body mighty figures, there were countless Mahayana patriarchs watching in the dark. What truly surprised him was that he could not see where the Mahayana patriarch was. Even though he had already sensed danger, he still could not sense any traces of the Mahayana patriarch. Actually, ever since Su Zimo descended and fought against the young masters of the primordial races, he had not used his full strength. Even until now, he had not released some of his trump cards. For example, he merely released 2 streams of heaven-slaying sword chi when he killed Heavenly Dipper and Malevolent Earth sect masters with their star dermic arts earlier on. It was not that Su Zimo was holding back on purpose. Instead, the moment he descended into Enigma Palace, his spirit perception sensed a faint killing intent that was extremely dangerous. This danger did not come from the primordial 6 races. Even with his spirit perception, he could not sense the source of the killing intent. In fact, when he sensed it carefully, the killing intent would vanish. Therefore, Su Zimo had been holding back the entire time, because he was worried that he would encounter immense danger. At that moment he was enlightened. The killing intent that made his heart palpitate came from a Mahayana patriarch. But now, even though danger had descended, and he could even smell the aura of death, he still could not see any traces of the Mahayana patriarch. Where is he? Those thoughts flashed through Su Zimo's mind. In reality, it happened in a flash. Behind the Heavenly Dipper and Malevolent sect masters, a flustered and frightened Heavenly Dipper sect cultivator, who seemed like he was about to escape, suddenly stopped in his tracks. He did not make much of a move, and merely raised his arm gently. Unknowingly, a slender sword had already appeared in his palm. It was like a gigantic silver needle that trembled slightly and shone with a cold glint. Shing! The sword pierced straight for Su Zimo's glabella and arrived instantly. No one saw how this person made his move. It was as though the moment that person raised his hand, the sword had already arrived in front of Su Zimo. Chapter 1576. It had to be said that this was a near-perfect assassination. Even Su Zimo had to admit that if his spirit perception had not warned him beforehand, and he had not been on guard, that sword strike would have killed him. In the cultivation world, there was only a single sect that could plan such a perfect assassination. One of the 7 fiend sects, Hidden Death sect. Behind the 2 sect masters, the cultivator in the robes of Heavenly Dipper sect was not from Heavenly Dipper sect. He was the Mahayana patriarch of Hidden Death sect. If the Mahayana patriarch of Hidden Death sect were to blend into the crowd and conceal his cultivation realm, no one would be able to detect him. Actually, it was not a coincidence that the 2 sect masters of Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect attacked. It would be great if the 2 sect masters could severely injure Su Zimo with their attacks. However, it did not matter if they could not. That was because the patriarch of Hidden Death sect was certain that the attack of the two sect masters would definitely infuriate Araki Takashi, and he would turn around to deal with the two sect masters. In his rage, his emotions would be unstable, and it would be even more difficult for Araki Takashi to detect his presence. Therefore, the reason why the two sect masters attacked was to enrage Araki Takashi, so that Araki Takashi would take the initiative to come over and lure out his fatal sword strike. The Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect believed that that sword strike was enough to kill Araki Takashi. Unfortunately, even though he was certain of everything, he did not expect Araki Takashi to possess an unfathomable spirit perception. The cicada senses autumn before the wind blows. Suzumo had long sensed danger. The sword strike did not cause any ripples. However, Suzumo's head suddenly tilted back, and his entire body was almost flat in midair. The Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect narrowed his eyes. That sword strike missed. To be precise, Suzumo did not dodge because he attacked. Instead, it was because Suzumo had dodged the moment he attacked. Swash! A pair of wings grew behind Suzumo, and he was shrouded in thunder. Transforming into a golden beam of light, he sped backwards. Since the Patriarch of the Hidden Death Sect had been exposed, he no longer tried to hide. He sneered, "You still want to escape from my sword?" The Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect did not retract his sword even though he missed. Instead, his wrist trembled slightly. That long and slender sword seemed to have a mind of its own. The body of the sword also bent, and the tip of the sword pointed downwards. It stabbed towards Suzumo's body over 10 times in succession. Puff, puff, puff. Arrows of blood spurted out, rising to the highest point before falling back down. What's going on? Araki Takashi is injured. Who is that person? This aura doesn't seem to belong to a conjoint body mighty figure, but a Mahayana patriarch. Cries of surprise rang out from the crowd. All living beings of the myriad races were shaken. The convention of the myriad races had yet to truly begin, but the Mahayana realm patriarch had already appeared. Hidden Death Sect? The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace widened his eyes in disbelief. Big brother! Zimo! Monkey and the rest looked at the figure that was falling from the sky, and yelled out furiously. Sigh! To think that Araki Takashi was invincible and defeated all the paragons and monster incarnates. Even the young masters of the primordial races had to avoid him. However, he was assassinated by a patriarch of the human race. Why would Hidden Death Sect assassinate Araki Takashi? I heard that many cultivators of Hidden Death Sect died in the hands of Araki Takashi. That might be the reason. That doesn't make sense either. At most, it's a personal grudge. Right now, they're in a confrontation with the primordial 6 races, and Hidden Death Sect killed the monster incarnate with the most potential of the human race. The living beings of the myriad races discuss fervently. Right then, just as the figure in midair was about to land on the ground, his body moved, and he stood up, landing on the ground. The figure staggered slightly, and his body was dripping with blood. However, he did not die. Psst! The living beings of the myriad races gasped. He was not dead. This was an assassination attempt by a Mahayana patriarch of Hidden Death Sect. Even the patriarch experts of the myriad races might not be able to survive. Suzumo clutched his chest with a pale expression, and glared at the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect, not far away with a cold gaze. The patriarch of Hidden Death Sect looked like an ordinary middle-aged man, and was the type that no one would pay attention to if he was thrown into a crowd. However, only such a person was the most suitable for assassination. Although Suzumo dodged immediately, the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect reacted quickly as well. He changed his move at the last minute, and stabbed more than 10 times. All of them landed on Suzumo's body. Every single sword pierced his Qinglian true body. That seemingly inconspicuous thin sword was the Patriarch's Dharma treasure. Only a Dharma treasure could pierce Suzumo's grade 7 Qinglian true body. Every single one of these dozen or so swords had been aimed at a vital point. The one with the most serious injury was the one that had pierced through his heart. You're quite capable to be able to escape alive from my hands, the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect said indifferently. Why did you attack me? Suzumo asked coldly. I was the one who asked you to. Right then. The voice of the remnant I sounded from the side. Su Zimo was slightly stunned before a look of realization flashed through his eyes. Just now, the young masters of the primordial races were forced into a wretched state by him. Thereafter, the seventh prince, young master Gui Wu, and the others sent voice transmissions secretly, asking Heavenly Dipper sect, Malevolent Earth sect, and the other sects to deal with him together. At that time, the remnant I turned around and faced a certain direction as well. Because he was blind with his remnant eye, Su Zimo did not pay much attention to his actions. Now that he thought about it, the remnant I must have informed the Patriarch of Hidden Death sect to prepare to attack. In that case, Hidden Death sect has already submitted to the Heavenly Eye race? Su Zimo had a mocking expression as he sneered and asked. The Mahayana Patriarch of Hidden Death sect was no ordinary cultivator. Now that he was obeying the orders of the young master of the Heavenly Eye race, that proved something. The Patriarch of Hidden Death sect was expressionless and said nothing. The remnant I nodded. That's right. Hidden Death sect has already submitted to the Heavenly Eye race in advance. All the sects and factions present today, listen up. If you choose to submit to the Heavenly Eye race today, we can protect you in the future and allow you to have a place to reside in Tianhuang mainland. The remnant I surveyed the surroundings with a pitch-black hole. If you still insist on resisting today, you'll be making an enemy out of the Heavenly Eye race. Many cultivators were silent and exchanged glances. They could see the hesitation, doubt and fear in each other's eyes. The Patriarch of Sword sect, Chaos Essence sect, Glass Palace, and the other super sects chose to remain silent. Hidden Death sect. The cultivators of Hidden Death sect have cultivated many concealment techniques and are extremely secretive. No one can discover your tracks. What are you guys afraid of? Why did you choose to submit? The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace was still in disbelief as he asked with grit teeth. The Patriarch of Hidden Death sect remained silent for a long time before saying slowly, "It's not that there's no one. Every single Heavenly Eye race being can see through our tracks. The secret skills of Hidden Death sect have nowhere to hide against the Heavenly Eye. Hidden Death sect has no other choice." Chapter 1577. No other choice? Su Zimo smiled. Does Clear Wind Temple have a choice? Does Clear Heart Nunnery have a choice? Su Zimo glared at the Patriarch of Hidden Death sect and shouted, "If you had submitted to the primordial races, just because you had no other choice, the human race would have been destroyed in the ancient era. If not for the endless corpses of the predecessors of the human race, and the bloody battles of the ancient emperors, how could there be such a peaceful era of the human race?" His words were powerful and resonant. The cultivators of Heavenly Dipper sect, Malevolent Earth sect, and some other super sects lowered their heads in shame. The Patriarch of Hidden Death sect was expressionless and remained silent. Su Zimo pointed at the Patriarch of Hidden Death sect. The ground beneath your feet was paved with the blood and bones of countless ancestors of the human race. You were born and raised here. But now, you're kneeling to the primordial races. How are you going to face the ancestors of the human race? When these words were spoken, they were simply sharper than any divine weapon, and every word struck at the heart. The expression of the Patriarch of Hidden Death sect finally changed. He had already cultivated to the Mahayana realm, and had experienced countless life and death battles. He had seen countless storms and his Tao heart was as stable as a rock, unshakable. Even if there were dharmic formulations that targeted his Tao heart, it would be difficult for them to affect him, let alone a few words. However, Su Zimo's words caused his Tao heart to waver slightly and reveal a flaw. The Patriarch of Hidden Death sect's expression darkened as he suddenly sneered. To think that Araki Takashi is such a glib tongue. It's useless for you to say that to me. I started cultivating for the sake of longevity. I'm only more than 50,000 years old, and I don't want to die yet. The lifespan of a Mahayana patriarch was more than 50,000 years old, and he was at his peak. Death has nothing to do with whether you want it or not. Su Zimo glared at the Patriarch of Hidden Death sect with a murderous aura, and said word by word. Today, you have to die even if you don't want to. Huh? The Patriarch of the Hidden Death sect sneered and said. What? Is the world-renowned half-martial ancestor Araki Takeshi going to kill me, a Mahayana patriarch? Why not? Suzumo said coldly. The ancestor can only be reborn from a drop of blood. It's not that he can't be killed. Hee. How ignorant. When they heard that, the sect masters of Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect sneered with mocking expressions. Punglai Island's island master, Poison sect's cult masters, and Corpse Refinement cult's cult masters all watched coldly from the sidelines, waiting to watch the show. The young masters of the primordial races took the opportunity to heal and recover their stamina. The creatures of all races were clear about one thing. The higher the cultivation level, the greater the difference in combat strength. It was even more difficult to challenge those of a higher cultivation level. For example, in the Qi Condensation Realm, Foundation Establishment Realm, and Jin Dan Realm, the prodigies of the various sects would be able to fight above their level, or even kill an opponent who was a whole realm above him. However, at the Conjoint Body and Mahayana Realm, such a phenomenon would become extremely rare. Furthermore, there was an insurmountable chasm between a half-martial ancestor and a patriarch. This was not a matter of cultivation realm. This was a complete transformation of the level of strength. Even in the ancient era, when the cultivation civilization was at its peak and many monster incarnates, such as the eternal human emperor and the fiend emperor hatred appeared, there had never been a half-martial ancestor who could kill a patriarch of a higher cultivation level. The living beings of the myriad races admitted that Araki Takeshi was the strongest monster incarnate of this generation, and even the young masters of the primordial races were inferior to him. However, the living beings of the myriad races did not believe that Araki Takeshi could kill a Mahayana patriarch, who was a major cultivation realm above him. The patriarch of Hidden Death sect smirked and said with a mocking expression, "Araki Takeshi, if you weren't injured, you might have a chance. Unfortunately, just now, you've been struck 16 times by me. Although I didn't manage to stab your essence spirit, my 16 swords pierced your organs and severed the tendons of your limbs." At that point, a commotion broke out in the crowd. Indeed, conjoint body mighty figures could regrow severed limbs. However, that was only under the condition that they had sufficient blood qi. For conjoint body mighty figures and half-martial ancestors, a shattered heart was already a devastating blow. With a shattered heart, one's blood qi would drain rapidly and their combat strength would decrease sharply. They would not be able to last long. Furthermore, with his organs shattered, life force severed and the tendons of his limbs severed, Araki Takeshi's body was equivalent to being crippled. Hidden Death sect specialized in the Tao of assassination. There was no way the patriarch of Hidden Death sect would return empty-handed. My 16 swords severed the life force of your organs. Although you can still stand now, you're already at the end of your rope. The patriarch of Hidden Death sect sneered. Araki Takeshi, stop holding on. You can't hide from me. Is that so? Suzumo released his palm that was covering his chest and said indifferently, I'll have to disappoint you then. Swoosh. The sound of a tsunami surging could be heard from Suzumo's body. There were no signs of his blood qi weakening. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked and widened their eyes. How is that possible? The patriarch of Hidden Death sect frowned. This was also the confusion of the living beings of the 10,000 races. There was no way the attack of the patriarch of Hidden Death sect would miss. The living beings of the 10,000 races saw the blood arrow that shot out in midair as well. The only explanation was that this was Qinglian's true body. This Qinglian's true body is truly impressive. Even though her heart was pierced, she was able to heal right away. That's right. It's much simpler now that her heart is healed, and her blood qi is circulating. With such powerful regeneration capabilities, the only way to destroy Qinglian's true body completely is to shatter it into pieces. A cultivator said in a deep voice. In that case, the real reason why Araki Takeshi is just now chatting with the patriarch of Hidden Death sect is to stall for time, so that Qinglian's true body can recover. So what if she recovers? Even if she recovers, Araki Takeshi is only a half-martial ancestor. How can he fight against a Mahayana patriarch? Many living beings were still not optimistic about Araki Takashi's chances of winning in this battle. Interesting. The Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect smiled and calmed down before long. Since that's the case, I'll kill you once more. Before he finished his sentence, the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect's body swayed and disappeared in front of everyone, right in front of countless gazes. He's gone. I can't even sense his aura. The living beings of the 10,000 races widened their eyes in shock. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace's heart skipped a beat, as though he had thought of something. Suddenly he shouted, "Araki Takashi, watch out. That's a divine power, invisibility." Invisibility was one of the thousands of lesser divine powers. There were many concealment dermic arts, but there would always be flaws. As for the invisibility technique, it was true that under the watchful eyes of everyone, the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect completely disappeared without a trace. Be it the detection of spirit consciousnesses or the patrolling, listening or sensing of the five senses, none of them could detect the aura of the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect. That was the terror of Hidden Death Sect. That lesser divine power could be said to be perfect when coupled with the Tao of assassination of Hidden Death Sect. Even ordinary Mahayana patriarchs would not be able to defend against that sudden attack. The Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect had vanished without a trace. However, everyone knew that the next time he appeared, it would definitely be a thunderous attack. Chapter 1578. Su Zimo stood on the spot motionlessly. When the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect released his invisibility, he closed his eyes and even blocked his five senses. That was the only way he could sense the existence of the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect with his spirit perception. Actually, he could see through the tracks of the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect with his nether fluorescent eye as well. However, even if he could see through his tracks, it would be difficult for him to react. Not only did the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect conceal himself, his movement technique was extremely fast, and he paced around Su Zimo erratically. Su Zimo's nether fluorescent eye could not keep up with the speed of the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect at all. He could only capture the tracks of the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect with his spirit perception. However, that was not enough. Mahayana patriarchs possessed the divine power of rebirth from a single drop of blood. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to kill them. As for the Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect, he would definitely be even more wary if he could not kill Su Zimo right away. It would be even more difficult to kill him after that. Therefore, Su Zimo only had a single chance to attack. In such a tense and dangerous battlefield, Su Zimo's mind was calm like an ancient well without ripples. The Patriarch of Hidden Death Sect did not appear. Su Zimo closed his eyes motionlessly as well. Everything seemed calm and tranquil, but everyone knew that under this tranquility, there were turbulent undercurrents. Once it erupted, it would definitely cause a tsunami. The atmosphere on the battlefield turned increasingly tense. Even the living beings of the 10,000 races that were watching this scene subconsciously held their breaths and focused, unwilling to blink. There was a high chance that life and death would be decided on the battlefield the moment they blinked. Unknowingly, the fight between the primordial 6 races and the human race gradually stopped as well. Both sides separated and glared at Su Zimo on the battlefield. At that moment, even though Monkey and the others were extremely worried, they did not dare to advance rashly or make a sound, afraid that they would affect Su Zimo. At that moment, any slight distraction could cause blood to splatter on the spot. Time passed bit by bit. Half an incense stick had passed. The Patriarch of the Hidden Death Sect did not show himself, nor did he make a move. The time for half an incense stick to burn was extremely torturous for all the living beings present, and it was like half a year had passed. This was how terrifying the Hidden Death Sect was. The assassins of the Hidden Death Sect were very patient. If he didn't show himself, he would have to be on guard at all times. He couldn't let his guard down at all. The Patriarch of the Hidden Death Sect seemed to have left. On the battlefield, Su Zimo's eyes were closed as if he had already fallen asleep. Even the creatures of the myriad races were getting impatient. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. A ripple suddenly appeared on the surface of the water, that was like an ancient well. Behind Su Zimo, a slender sword appeared and silently pierced towards his head. The hidden death sect's patriarch finally made his move. Of course, by the time they saw this, the tip of the sword had already pierced Su Zimo's scalp. Suddenly, in a flash, a palm appeared on the wrist of the hidden death sect's patriarch that was wielding the sword. It was strong and gripped his wrist tightly. The thin sword had already made contact with Su Zimo's scalp, and even caused a trace of blood to flow out. However, it could not pierce further no matter what. Hidden Death Sect specialized in assassination. However, the physique and bloodline of Hidden Death Sect were not strong. Even the Mahayana patriarch of Hidden Death Sect could not compare to Su Zimo's Qinglian's true body in terms of physique and bloodline. Araki Takeshi blocked the sure-kill attack of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect. A series of exclamations sounded from the crowd. A look of surprise flashed through the eyes of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect as well. Even he had not expected that Su Zimo would be able to see through his tracks and block his killing move in advance. Su Zimo had the initiative. At that distance, he had countless ways to severely injure the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect. In fact, as long as he exerted strength, he could even snap the wrist of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect. However, none of those methods could kill the Mahayana patriarch completely. He only had a single chance. If he missed it and allowed the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect to escape, it would be a huge threat to him and everyone else. Kill. Su Zimo's gaze was burning as he suddenly hollered. He gripped the wrist of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect tightly with his right hand, preventing the latter from escaping. Conjuring a sword art with his left hand, he slashed towards the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect. Not good. The patriarch of Hidden Death Sect was alarmed, and his pupils constricted. Buzz! A bedazzling light burst forth from Su Zimo's sword fingers. It was not a single sword chi. There were 108,000 of them. In order to kill the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect, Su Zimo had no intention of holding back at all. 108,000 sword chi enveloped the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect. Pust! The living beings of the 10,000 races gasped in shock. Such dense sword chi was enough to slice the void into pieces, let alone land on a single person. Those sword chi could destroy all the life force in the body of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect. The prerequisite for rebirth from a drop of blood was that one's essence spirit had to survive as well. Furthermore, one had to possess a drop of fresh blood that contained life force. However, the explosion of the 108,000 sword chi was enough to destroy every single drop of blood of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect, and even his essence spirit. It was way too ruthless. The living beings of the 10,000 races grimaced with shock in their eyes. When the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect attacked, Su Zimo seized the opportunity to release such a terrifying attack. He did not give the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect a second chance to attack. Kill. Right then, a look of determination flashed through the eyes of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect as he growled. He ignored the 108,000 sword chi and reached forward with his other hand. A cold beam of light burst forth from his sleeve and entered Su Zimo's chest. It was the second sword of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect. Both sides were injured. A series of exclamations sounded from the crowd. Or rather, this could no longer be considered as an internecine outcome. It was a life for a life. The patriarch of Hidden Death Sect knew that he would not be able to escape death. However, even if he died, he had to drag Su Zimo down with him. The two of them were way too close. Su Zimo gripped the wrist of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect with his right hand, and released the heaven-slaying sword chi with his left hand. He could not defend against the sword at all. When the 108,000 heaven-slaying sword chi descended on the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect, the sword of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect pierced his chest as well. Buzz! This sword strike was trembling in his chest, and it emanated strands of extremely fierce sword insight that seemed as if it intended to tear everything apart. This was the final sword of a Mahayana patriarch before his death. He released all the strength of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect without holding back. A green beam of light flew out from Su Zimo's head. The creation lotus platform protected the black-haired essence spirit as it escaped from its shell and fled the battlefield rapidly. Poof! Poof! The moment the creation lotus platform left, Su Zimo's Qinglian's true body was sliced into pieces by the final sword of the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect, turning into a pile of flesh. His organs were sliced into pieces, and he was drenched in blood in a shocking manner. However, the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect was in an even worse state. He was turned into a blood mist by the 108,000 heaven-slaying sword qi. Chapter 1579. In the blink of an eye, the outcome of this battle had already been decided. To be precise, life and death were decided in less than a breath's time. To everyone's surprise, the patriarch of Hidden Death Sect was dead. As a half-martial ancestor, Araki Takashi had truly crossed a major cultivation realm and killed a Mahayana patriarch. However, the price was tragic. Qinglian's true body was sliced into pieces by the patriarch's final slash before his death, turning into a bloody pile of minced meat. She was completely crippled. Even Araki Takashi's essence spirit managed to survive under the protection of the Creation Lotus platform. However, without Qinglian's true body, Araki Takashi was no longer a threat. From this moment on, the monster incarnate of history, who once dominated Tianhuang mainland, suppressing the titular disciples and suppressing the young masters of the primordial races, was a thing of the past. "Brother!" Su Xiaoning exclaimed softly, and her eyes reddened as tears flowed down her cheeks. Ugh! Monkey Linghu and the other sighed as well. Night Spirit was expressionless. The living beings of the 10,000 races had complicated expressions. Some of them revealed a hint of pity while others gloated. For the young masters of the primordial 6 races, although this outcome was worse than they had expected, it was still acceptable. Although Araki Takashi was not dead, he was already a cripple in their eyes. It was only at this moment that the young masters of the primordial races heaved a sigh of relief, and relaxed smiles appeared on their faces once more. Yu Luocha frowned slightly. That evil man's clone is destroyed. I wonder if he'll appear. Yu Luocha lamented internally. I hope he doesn't come. Even if he does, it's useless and he'll still die here. Araki Takashi, I admit that you're strong. To think that you could cross a major cultivation realm and kill a Mahayana patriarch like me. The voice of Hidden Death Sect's patriarch echoed in midair. The essence spirit of Hidden Death Sect's patriarch was already destroyed by the heaven-slaying sword qi. Right now, his voice was merely the final remnant consciousness he left in this world. But I just want to tell you, even if you can kill me, I'll make you pay a painful price. Ha ha ha. Although I've died, I didn't die in vain since I was able to destroy such a powerful monster. In the future, if someone mentions Araki Takashi, they will definitely think of me. I will go down in history. Everyone will remember that I was the one who destroyed Araki Takashi's Qinglian true body. I was the one who knocked the #1 monster of all time off his pedestal. The remnant consciousness of Hidden Death Sect's patriarch laughed wantonly. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. At this moment, the lotus platform of creation flew back from afar. Su Zimo's voice came from inside. Pink lotus petals bloomed one after another, and multicolored light spread out, revealing the black-haired primordial spirit sitting cross-legged. What did you say? The remnant consciousness of the ancestor of the Hidden Death Sect shouted. The black-haired essence spirit stood up and channeled his spirit consciousness, saying slowly, Qinglian's true body condense. In the void, there was a strange power that contained an enormous amount of vitality. Right in front of countless gazes, the shattered flesh of Qinglian's true body condensed rapidly and was reconstructed. In the blink of an eye, Qinglian's true body reappeared. Her entire body looked crystalline and flawless. As her blood qi surged, her organs were filled with immense life force. The huge battlefield was completely silent. All of the living beings widened their eyes as they stared at this scene in disbelief. What's that? Rebirth from a drop of blood? Countless doubts surged through the minds of the living beings of the 10,000 races. This scene looked exactly the same as the rebirth of a Mahayana patriarch from a drop of blood. Araki Takashi has already entered the Mahayana realm and became a Mahayana patriarch? No, he's still a half-martial ancestor. How is that possible? It's Qinglian of creation. It must be the Qinglian of creation. A cultivator shouted. The Qinglian of creation is an utmost treasure of the universe that possesses the creations of heaven and earth. Every time she grows to a new stage, she will possess unimaginable mysteries. The black-haired essence spirit's spirit consciousness moved and turned into a streak of green light with the creation lotus platform, entering the glabella of Qinglian's true body and returning to her consciousness. That cultivator was only half right. If she was merely a grade 7 creation Qinglian, she would not possess such a mysterious power. This method that was similar to rebirth from a drop of blood was something that Su Zimo comprehended after refining the worryless wood and undergoing the baptism of the divine power storm. After cultivating for dozens of years, he comprehended a trace of divine power. At the same time, Qinglian's true body grew to the peak of grade 7 and awakened a method. The combination of karma allowed Su Zimo to comprehend such a powerful method that was close to rebirth from a drop of blood. Impossible. That's impossible. When the remnant consciousness of hidden death sex patriarch sensed this, he fell into endless madness and roared hysterically. Initially, he could have left without any regrets. But now, his heart was filled with indignance and resentment. The fact that Su Zimo had reconstructed Qinglian's true body meant that he had died for nothing. Araki Takashi killed him almost perfectly despite being a major cultivation realm above him. The remnant consciousness of hidden death sex patriarch roared in the battlefield. Su Zimo's expression was cold as he chanted in Sanskrit. Boom! The voice of hidden death sex patriarch stopped abruptly. That remnant consciousness dissipated completely as well. The final trace of hidden death sex patriarch in this world vanished as well. He would not be recorded in history. Nobody would remember him either. When future generations mentioned him, he might only be a pitiful Mahayana patriarch that Araki Takashi killed at the half-martial ancestor realm. It's no wonder why Araki Takashi is the #1 monster incarnate of history. To possess such a method that's similar to rebirth from a drop of blood at the half-martial ancestor realm, he's almost immortal among half-martial ancestors. That's right. If the patriarch doesn't appear, no one will be able to kill him. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked as they discussed softly. There was no progress in the convention of the myriad races this time round. However, the living beings of the 10,000 races did not come in vain and felt that their horizons had been broadened. Xiaoning smiled through her tears. Damn it, First really knows how to have fun. I was scared to death. Ling Hu grinned and patted his chest with a silly smile. Who are you talking to? Monkey was in a good mood, as well as he slapped Ling Hu. F***CK. Brother Monkey, you hit me again. Ling Hu glared and turned to Night Spirit. Fifth, help me. Brother Monkey only knows how to bully me. So what if I bully you? Monkey rolled his eyes and started fooling around with Ling Hu. Night Spirit watched this scene quietly. A familiar warmth flowed through his heart as a smile appeared on his face. No matter what, no matter where he was, no matter who he was, the brotherhood between them did not change in the slightest. Even after Monkey and the others found out about his true identity back then, their attitude towards him did not change at all. There was no fear or conflict. In the eyes of Monkey and the others, Night Spirit was their fifth brother, and was not a taboo. Anyone who bullied him would be enemies with the 7 of them. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.